Right, so where did we get up to? We have the body animating up and down. Let me see if he's still playing. He is. So we've got a bit of a pace of high moves. So now let's throw in the legs to actually make him walk along those steps. Optimistic is good. Any little critters are good. One tip I've found useful for myself, especially when I'm looking at walk cycles or even complex animation, is to reduce the window size. Make it smaller as you're viewing it. You get almost literally a stepping back from your screen approach to see how your movement looks and how your character looks, because you focus less on the details and more on the overall movement. So zooming out is a great way to figure out if your character is moving as you think they should be. So let's get some limbs on this fella, shall we? So we've got his body. If we look at the top right here, where I've got my template image, you can see a template really for the position of each of the legs. And I will draw this currently with the same pencil palette entry for both legs. But you might find it useful from time to time to have two different palette entries, one for each leg, because then when you're animating one of the legs, you can easily change the colour by turning down the alpha on the other leg if you're using vector or Toonz raster levels. So that's a good way and a good reason to use those two level types, because then you can remove the right leg entirely and you can follow the left leg as he moves through the cycle, because it can get quite complicated, especially when you're in betweening, and you can see the onion skin of the before and after positions. So that might be something to do for the second character when we get to that. So let's see what we've got here then. So let's start throwing some legs on this little fella. Grab the brush tool. My settings are fine. Hit save before we start, so we've got a save point if things go badly wrong. Yulichek's back, you found us. Thank you, Yulichek. Welcome back. Just a small break there. Unfortunately, not really a break for me as I was rushing around trying to sort out my my system here. I think a few people are coming back and finding the link, which is good. So thank you for coming back, and thank you for keeping up with us. Whenever we break down like that, and it's happened a couple of times, if you check back to the Discord server, I'll generally go to the questions for livestream channel and put some details in there. But basically, somewhere on the Discord server, you'll see me commenting and letting you know how I'm trying to get back and when we are getting back. And as soon as possible, I will always try and start a fresh stream, so you might need a new link. So jump back to YouTube and watch out for a new link appearing. Hi there, Ashnan. Welcome back. Glad you found me again. On to add some legs onto this chappie. So we've got the centre point of where his leg's going to start from. And if you try and imagine this character here is almost a cut-out single piece of paper, and the left and right leg are both connected at the same position at the front and back. So we'll draw the right leg first in the contact pose. So we'll work out how long it is just by eyeing this up. So it's a straight line down and then like that. So for this character, that feels like too long of a leg. So let's erase this back. How about that? Yeah, maybe something around there. And now we've got the leg position. Hey, Full Chain, welcome back. Thank you, good, thank you for telling me that. I thought tweet it out and Discord and people spotting the link on YouTube should be enough places for people to find us and to join us back. So glad you came back to us. So for this simple chap walking, I'm going to click on the side ruler area and put a line under his foot to show where the floor is. And again, this is the simple character. So I'm going to draw both feet drawn on that same horizon line, the same floor line here. Ordinarily they wouldn't be. The foot at the back would be drawn higher up than the foot nearest the camera. But for simplicity, let's stick with the same line for both. So that's his right leg stretched out for the contact. And the left leg, if you imagine it coming from the same point, so it's coming down and back with his foot then just touching the floor. So if you imagine the leg here would really be going up sort of to this position, to the same point there. And one of the tricks I found, or one of the things I found the trickiest, is having the kneecaps positioned in the same place each time. The knees on some walk cycles I've drawn often move up and down the leg. So trying to find a way to have the kneecap in the same place can be tricky. Now for this simple character, what we can do is if we create another level, and now we'll use a vector level for this. In this instance, I'll use the initial single colour because I'm not really drawing with this. I'm using this as a guide. I'll choose the geometry tool and pick the circle option. And if I draw a circle with the centre point where the leg joins the body until I hit the kneecap there, that's quite large, so let's use the selection tool and reduce the thickness. And then we'll change the colour over here. Let's make it like a yellow colour just so it's different to the others, and we'll extend the exposure across all 8 drawings. And now as the leg swings around, the knee must be in that same position. So that's the position for the knee for the right leg, and here you see it for the left leg. So that should make it easier to keep the knees in the same place for this simple character. Yay! Ulichek's back in black. Excellent. So this is the contact position. Drawing number 2 is the down position. This is something, right, you should really have the guide attached to the body. Let me do one small thing. Grab the pen. On frame 1, I'm going to put a small dot at the center point of that circle because I need to duplicate this drawing to position it moving up and down. So let's just press D to create 8 duplicates. Using the selection tool in freehand mode, I can then move this down to place the center of the circle over the place where the leg is rotating from. That's fine. Because obviously the length of the leg doesn't change as the character bounces up and down. So now we've got a circle moving up and down with it. So I can draw the knees in the right place. And JP Parks, hello! So let's throw some legs on him. So that's frame 1. So frame 2 is the down position. So if we turn on the onion skin on the character drawing, you can see where his foot touched the floor, and then the next position is his knee bent and the foot on the floor, but the heel needs to remain in the same place. Now because he's walking on the spot, you have to imagine that the character is on a treadmill, so the floor is constantly moving underneath him. So if you try and draw him with his foot just there and then draw the knee off like that, the foot will sort of stop. If you imagine the background coming behind him, will sort of stop in the wrong place and then suddenly move. It's one of those things I explained earlier, that if you draw your character walking across the screen, you can have the feet planted and staying in the right position as he steps away. In this situation, what you need to do is have the foot move a little bit to the left because the floor's moving. How much to the left? Well, the way I work on this is if you go to the 3rd drawing, which is the passing position, this has the foot in the middle of drawing number 1 position and drawing number 5, which is the next contact position. And this will ensure that the foot travels the same distance each time. And you'll see exactly what I mean after I've finished it. So it'll make sense in a second. So let's go to number 3 and we'll draw the passing position. I'll turn on the onion skin for number 1 just to give us an idea so we can see the scale of the feet, try and keep things the same size. And for the passing position, the foot is right foot here should be exactly at the bottom. So bring the leg down of where it's joined and then draw it roughly the same length. And now we've got position 1 and position 3. You can draw drawing number 2 directly between those two. And I'll show you that in a second. So that's the down foot. We've got the passing position, so let's have the left leg here coming from just behind. And as we've got the position for where the kneecap will be on this circle, we can then draw that with the foot trailing a little behind. So now we can do drawing number 2. So I've turned on onion skin between drawings 1 and 3 that we've already drawn. And this is where it's sometimes useful to turn off the drawing lines for one of the legs. And if we use Toonz raster or vector, we can hide that colour if we wanted to. But we can see fairly clearly what we're doing here. So the first drawing is the contact position here. So that is at this point you're touching the floor. The third drawing, the heel is here. So for this drawing, you want the heel to be in the middle, and that means the foot will be moving at the same pace for each drawing. So if I undo that, and then I can draw my foot just there, and this is the down position. So we know where the knee is because the circle's there, and let's draw that line here. So to have the top part and bottom part of the leg roughly the same size, the knee has to come forward as he comes down. And then the rear leg on the down position is in between touching the floor as it was on drawing 1 and being in the air. So again, imagining the line coming from the centre, it comes to here where the knee should be, bring it back, and there. And you see it's kind of trailing behind where the previous foot was. So let's bring it up a little bit actually. So that this will add to the pacing where the foot stays slowly at the back part of the body and then moves quickly to the front, and it's kind of slower at the front and it moves quickly towards the back. You'll see that happening at the end there. Absolutely, Mr. Richard Williams, he's got a lot to answer for. He's helped a lot of artists and animators. For me, this drawing is helpful for lots of reasons, but the main one compared to other drawings is the height. The simple height line to consider, the bob up and down. The other drawings, it's difficult to read them sometimes to see exactly where to draw. But for me, having this simple line over here and to have the position where it is, it gives a lovely bob to the walk. Okay, so we've got the drawing there of the up, the contact, the down, the passing, and next is the up position. So again, if you want to know where to draw the feet, the spacing between the first two drawings is the heel there, the heel here. So the next drawing, the heel must be here to give the same pacing for the foot moving. So let's undo those lines and then draw the foot in there at the same position. So this is the heel here, we said, but the foot is starting to come up with the up like that, and his right leg, in fact it comes up more I think than that. There we go. That's his right leg going to the centre there, and his left leg is then coming forward prior to the contact, which is the next drawing, which will be here. So I need to draw his left foot coming through, And the position of where you draw these legs also influences the style of character that you have. So some would have the leg slowing down behind and then just stamping down. Others it would swing really high and then come down. So you might have the leg up here somewhere. So it depends on the style of your character. But because we're doing the basic drawings first, and we're drawing them almost as stick figure drawings, it's easy to come back later, wipe them out and start again to get the right drawing for our movement. Absolutely, I watched that the other day, Soda Pop, the Animator Island video, really good. Some of it was based on his live stream from a couple of days before that you shared on the Discord server. And because you shared that, I spotted it and managed to watch that live. And it was while I was watching that video that I first did a bit of a walk cycle, which got me interested in doing this today. So it's kind of thanks to you sharing the video and for him doing his animation on the stream that we're doing walk cycles. So let's click and drag on the frame numbers just to see that movement. So the leg comes through. I'm looking at the far leg, his left leg at the minute. So let's see how that looks when we play that in a second. Okay, so that's the first 4 drawings done. So the next 4 drawings are the same positions but the opposite leg. So the best way to do that, in particular when you're starting out and starting to get used to a feel for the animation, is to go to frame 5, which is the next contact position. You can see here the C at the top. And if you turn on the onion skin for 4 frames before, which is the previous contact position, then we can copy the legs positions of where the feet touch the floor and the position angle of the leg, and just join a different one to the left hand side of the body than to the right. Let me show you what I mean. So on drawing 1 in red here, you can see the right leg is nearest to us, so it's joined to the centre. Whereas now on frame 5, the right leg is at the back of the body. If we step through them, you'll see a walk forwards to the centre, towards the back. So number 5, the right leg needs to be at the back. So all you need to do is to join this right leg to the centre. And the other leg is the left leg, which is behind the body. So you draw that to the outside of the body and not to this centre point. Do the same with the other 2. So this right leg is actually the position of where the left leg now is. So just trace over that to the outside of the body. And this other leg is actually the right leg going to the centre. Number 7, same again. And so if your first 4 drawings are okay, these 4 drawings should be okay too. But it's really easy to lose track of which leg is which again. So as I say, you might want to use one of the 2 drawing level types and then hide one of the legs so you only see the leg that you're interested in. So that's the last 4 legs drawn on really simply and really easily. And because we've got the legs drawn now, let's hide that circle. We don't need that. What did you miss, Maria? Do you know where we was up to? We've now got all 8 legs, and we might need to redraw some of them. That's fine. Again, the sooner you find the problems, the less work there is to do. So if I hit loop play on that, and we'll see how the legs look. Okay. So depending where you cut out, one thing I did mention, so the first 4 drawings are copied in the style and position from the reference image. So this is the contact pose. Let's zoom out a tad, there we go. You can see the big C, the contact pose, where his legs stretched out and the heel just touches the floor. The next one is the down pose, then passing, and then up. And the position of where each one of these is, I use the onion skin to mark the positions of where the heels are to try and keep the pacing the same, so that it looks like you're walking on a treadmill at the same pace, and that will allow you to have a scrolling background. And once you set the right pace for the background, his feet won't be sliding on the floor, he'll look like he's planting on the floor as he walks through the scene. Excellent, Soda Pop. I did think about putting some background music on, and I've got some to one side to play when I go for a short break soon. And I thought about putting that on while I was drawing today, but I figure you can always have your own choice of music on rather than being stuck with mine. So yeah, choose your own music, set the volume rather than having whatever I put on. But Joe Jackson, Step In, I don't know that one, but it's good to have music while you draw. I just can't have too much today while I'm concentrating on this. So the first 4 drawings are copied from the template reference, and then the next 4, if you go to drawing number 5, I turned on the onion skin for drawing number 1. So we're seeing the onion skin for the contact pose from the previous leg, and I just swapped the legs that are joined in front of the body and behind to draw the last 4 poses. So again, loop play on that. If I zoom out, it plays a little bit smoothly and it's easier for me to see. Might not be easy for you on the stream to see, but for me it's easier to see the movement and the pacing. So a few things to point out. Because I put the dot at the centre of where the leg joins, that feels really solid as it moves up and down with the body as the leg swings backwards and forwards as we're walking. I think the pacing and the size of the legs is okay. There's the one part of the movement I'm not so keen on is the up position for the far leg. It's not quite right for me. I do like an 80s classic, as you know, so yeah, I should do. It's Max Magnus. I assume you're talking to Soda Pop about RQ, so when you're ready, Soda Pop. So the leg swings forward. A couple of things to note: the leg moves really fast as it swings through the centre of this movement, so it's always going to be a large gap, but we're looking really at the kneecap. If I zoom in a little bit there, so the distance for the kneecap to move is only a little bit, but the distance for the foot is quite a long way around as that swings, so that is quite a large movement. And because if you consider the length of this leg, if the bottom part of the leg swings round there, you can see it's going to hit the floor. So really the knee needs to lift up quite a lot more for the leg to swing through and then goes down. So if we look at drawing 4 and onion skin number 5. Absolutely, Max Magnus, you're not wrong at all. The idea of this walk cycle is to not add that personality yet. The idea is to get a feeling for the 8 frame cycle, and we'll do the personality as the next one. So I've talked about that before, that we're not going to be making differences. So the body and the face is literally copy and pasted, so that's not changed. As ordinarily you change that so that when you walk, as you step, maybe you might close your eyes a little bit, the body might shrink a little bit to give it a squash and stretch, a little bit of bounce, and add the personality in lots of different ways. This one isn't about personality, it's just getting your first walk cycle going that looks quite neat and quite confident. So looking at drawing number 5, the leg comes out straight. Let's change this left leg here by raising that, and have the knee lift up a little bit further. So have it, let's turn on the circle there, go into the leg, the body drawing, and then let's lift the knee up a little bit further. Oops, we don't need to go to the centre, it's the left leg that's behind the body, but we're pointing in that direction, so let's do that there. Let's look at the onion skin, so it's coming from here, it's going to there, so let's draw the angle sort of in between, have the foot trailing a little bit. So the knee comes up high now, and let's see how that looks. So that's the left leg as it swings forward. Let's see that. Hit save before we start, and loop play. So the right leg doesn't swing as high as it comes forward. The left leg, the knee comes higher, so it comes up and sort of stomps down. So it gives us a bit of a different look to both legs. So now I can look at them both and see which we prefer to keep. So if you can see a difference and you've got a preference, then do let me know which you think it should be. And you can see over on the right here the 4 poses for each of the legs shown. So because the knee comes up so high, it's quite a fast and prominent stomp down as it comes down for the down pose. And the right leg is more of a swing towards it. So yeah, 2 different sort of tiny different styles of legs there. I quite like, yeah, I think I'm going to go for the high knee that I drew on the left leg, and I'm going to copy that to the right leg. So I'll turn on the onion skin on drawing on frame 8 to show the onion skin for frame 4, and then using the eraser, let's erase the right leg, and then draw this in the same position where it's stomping down. But it's now in front of the body because it's the right leg, not the left. Yeah, the feet, I noticed the feet are changing size slightly. I was going to look at that in a second. So now they're both kicking out for the stomp down. Let's see what we've got, because they start off quite large and then they go toddy. So let's throw a bit more foot on him. Same here. I quite like, he's a monster after all, so I quite like the larger foot. It's not bad, but let's look at that. Again, the sooner you spot these things, the sooner you can fix them, so that when you come back to ink and paint later, if you're going to draw over this, you can get a neater line straight away, because you're just copying what you've already worked out, what you've calculated. So yeah, keeping the scale of characters is, I find, so difficult to do, so difficult. And again, that's why I'm practicing, that's why I'm here today. I'm not here to teach the best way to do a walk cycle. I'm not here to say this is the way you must do it, this is the way it is done, but just to share a few things I've learned while doing these walk cycles, and again a few things I've learned while using the program for shortcuts and tips. But then it's showing the way I've been doing walk cycles so far, and also to give me practice and time to practice them while we're doing it live on stream. Please do full chain, please do. In fact, I should probably share mine at some point. I've not done that yet. So let me just rename this column. So body and legs. And I'm going to go to the render options. In fact, before you do, don't forget to go to your scene settings, increase the alpha on the background so you've got a background colour. Go to the output settings, because I'm also going to change the size of the camera temporarily to try and make him fit into the camera better. So let's change from the drop down to a smaller camera. See how that changes it. It doesn't change it in the view, you've got to change it up here in the camera settings. So I did this the other day, so I didn't have a large white background, I just had part of the animation. So if I change the camera in here to a smaller one, that should... No, I didn't change it. So let's just change it by changing the pixel size. Instead of 1280, make it 1000. 800. That's a bit better. And then using the Animate tool on frame 1, I'll move him to the middle of the screen. And now, if I go to my output settings, frames 1 to 8, let me check my FPS, should be 6. So that's equivalent to showing the drawings on 4s. Change it to be a GIF animation. I'll shrink it down by a little bit. Yeah, just half size. Call it cycle 1. Render. So let me see how that looks. So I'm going to my outputs folder. Let me just see how that plays on here first. It is quite small, so let's take away the shrink. There we go. And then I'll drop this into the Discord server. Okay, so that's in the, in fact I've put it into the wrong one myself. Delete that. Your animations, here we go. There we go, we've got Tom's there, I'll look at that in a second. Let me just drop this in. I love the little face. Thank you, Tom. But yeah, for those of you just starting out for your first few walk cycles, the body and head could be anything you like. The main thing we're considering at the minute is the mechanical process of the legs moving and the body bouncing up and down. Which looks like you've just about got there, Tom. One thing I've noticed is when the foot, the heel touches and then goes flat, the heel doesn't move backwards, and it should. So it touches like that, and then you want to move it backwards for when it goes flat, because he's walking on a treadmill. Imagine the background scrolling behind him, and there's a small pause just here. Yeah, where the foot does that in the same position, so that needs to move back a little bit. I hope that makes sense. It's Q-Ball. Hello. Glad you made it. Good to have you here. Potato is a monster. Let's change this back then to, was it 1920? It doesn't need to be quite that large, so 1280. Oops. Try it again. Pixels. There's a problem with this dialogue, I've noticed. It doesn't quite work as you'd expect. That's fine. And then move the key. Gone. Right, back to normal. Okay. So that's him walking along at a nice pace. I wanted to quickly show the in-between, an in-betweening of this, just to point out kind of one small tip I'd like to share on that. In-betweening, it's tempting to in-between by drawing your new line between two lines of the previous and the next frame, and that's not what you want to do, especially with a walk cycle. The the way the feet move, you want to favour the front position and the back position to slow that down. So the feet on the floor still need to move at the same pace, but the way the legs move need to favour the back position and the front. So that's something we need to look at. Yeah, so here we go, Tom. Sorry, I should really show you on this one. So that's my contact. And when the foot lands down, if I look at the onion skin, the heel moves from here to here. And then the following drawing, it goes back to here, which is slightly longer, but it should be roughly the same space between each position of the foot until it's into the air. So yeah, so if you adjust that, and you should see the difference between the two drawings. Okay, so how can we start in betweening this? The best way I've found, let me first copy and paste this column. So I've got a copy of what I've done so far here. So if I copy and then paste, and I made a small mistake with the first copy with the body, because that is the same drawing, so we'll include the legs now. So that doesn't really help, so I'll remove that. I should really have cloned the drawings to have a copy of the drawings before I added the legs, but that's okay. Of course you can, Soda Pop. Absolutely. Yeah, chicken scratch is fine, full chain. Yeah, and then correct it later. Yeah, no problem. I think people seeing progress on the Discord server, this is kind of part of the point of what we're doing, letting everybody that's there see the progress of what we're all working on. And we're all at different stages in our drawing ability. So some walk cycles that are shared today, I know, will look, if I can be kind, they will look quite poorly drawn. That's fine. That'll improve with time. Others will look expertly drawn, and that's also fine. It's showing the progress and showing the different abilities of people here, and we're all here to learn from each other, to see what others have done that are good things, and see them improve, to see the differences between a better attempt to the preceding attempt. So absolutely share that. Maria, you didn't save? You're the save queen. I know Dave relies on you, tell him to save often. Oh. So do you have nothing at all? Did you never save? Oh well. No problem. You get started again. You know the stages. I've been rabbiting on quite a bit, so I'm sure you can catch up with where we are. But you take your time and get started with that. Okay, great. Yeah, you've got the first stage back. Good. At least you've got something in there. Full chain. Exactly as I was saying a second ago about the quality of drawings from people. Here's full chains. But again, despite this looking like a really nice drawing, you mentioned chicken scratch, but it still looks like a really solid drawing. You can still see the pacing of the feet, and you can see them kind of moving on the floor and having that conveyor belt treadmill look about them where they move at the same pace each. So this is a much more complex walk cycle to the one we're looking at today. Today we're looking at a very, very simple one. As I say, just to get the basic movement. Then we've got soda pops. Yes, I remember this one. Yeah, because it's an MP4, of course, it's not going to cycle. But because you've got a background, the cycling would look peculiar with the background jumping back after each cycle anyway. But I think you can see, if I make it larger there, and everybody else can see the a little issue with the sliding feet we was talking about. I know that's not a problem for you for what you're creating here, but it's kind of the thing to consider of when you're placing the feet and attaching a background to move with it. So thanks for sharing that, Soda Pop. Do as I say, not as I do. Yes, unfortunately. My motto is do as Maria says. Save early and save often. I still don't sometimes. In fact, let me save it now. But I'm getting better. That's all you need. Yeah, no, that's really, really good for one of the first cycles, Soda Pop. Yeah, colour coding is a great way to work on a cycle. As I was talking about earlier, having a different colour for each leg can often be useful. And you sometimes see people, if they've drawn a more solid character, so the bottom of the character's here, they'll have the front leg here, and then the rear leg like this. They'll often shade in the rear leg, just so you can see a difference between the two as it passes. So it looks a darker colour, and so you can see the difference, particularly in the middle where they overlap. Okay, so I wanted to do some in-betweening here. So if you highlight all 8 drawings and put them onto 2s, so there's a 2s button here, tap that. Then you can go in between each drawing and press Alt-D, which is the Create Blank Drawing option, to start a new drawing to draw it again. Or you can press D to duplicate this drawing. And the option is entirely up to you. I don't want to redraw the body in this instance. Again, it's a simple walk cycle, so I don't want to redraw the body. So I'm going to press D. Do I want to press D? No, we'll copy and paste. So I'll press Alt-D to create a blank drawing here in between each one. And go to the next, frame 4, Alt-D, Alt-D, go through to the end. So now there's 16 drawings. So the walk cycle will appear to flicker as it shows the drawing I've done and the gap in between. So I'll hit save, just in memory of Maria's fallen soldier. So on drawing number 1, let's take the selection tool. I'll highlight the body, ignoring the legs, press Ctrl C, go to drawing 2, click on screen and press Ctrl V. So now that body is in the same position. I'll take the eraser and we'll erase the leg, but leaving the center dot so we know where to draw the legs up to, because we'll use this drawing as kind of like a template for the other 8 drawings that we've got on screen. So if I take that now, press Ctrl C, and then go to each of these blank frames and paste that drawing in each of those. So now we should have a drawing in each one, and then we can start to position them. So we want to consider where the height of the bodies and then the position of the legs. I did, Claude, yes, I did see that earlier. I was going to comment, but I kind of moved on. I don't know how much of today's stream you've seen, but the one thing it's missing, the cycle, is the up and down movement. You've got the legs starting to go in roughly the right positions, but you need to add the up and down movement. As I've shown today, I find that easiest adding first, and that's exactly what I'm going to do for the in-betweens. I'm going to add the body moving up and down in between the other positions on here, and then we'll get a better feel for the movement. So are you able to join in today and do another walk cycle today? Either a very simple circle or an egg character or a simple character, just to get the legs moving. So let me draw a quick sketch of what I've got in mind here. So we've got the positions. If we try and imagine a kind of a graph of the body walking across the screen, as we've got here. So we've got the standard position of where the contact is that we're moving from first. So frame 1, your head is here, then it comes down to here, and then the passing is just above the line, and up is quite a long way above the line, like that. So you've got this cycle like this, as the character moves up and down. So the in-between positions, you want to have them at the right place to keep that nice smooth flow going. And again, it depends on the attitude of your character to quite where you want this position to be. But if we consider a kind of a bog standard, basic standard walk cycle without any affectations or particular exciting movements, the way I tend to do the in-betweens are I favour the up and down positions. And it's very much like the bouncing ball exercise that we've all done, and I encourage everyone to do over on my Discord server, to work through those bouncing ball challenges that I've got over there, to get more of a feel for movement, for ease in and ease out. That's the point of those. So with the bouncing ball, as a ball bounces up, the positions get closer together till they get towards the top, and then they're very close together. And then when they come down, they start off close together, and then they get further apart as they come to the bottom. So it's the extremes where you've got this closeness for each of the circles. So we want the same for this. So where the character comes down, again for a standard walk cycle, I'll have the in-between first closer to the lowest position. So I'll have it kind of here. So it's near or nearer to the bottom than it is to the top. As it travels upwards, again, it's easing out of the lowest position, so you want it again near to the low position. And then it moves quickly up. As it gets to the top, you want the in-between here to be near to the top position. And then the same as it comes out the other side, near to the top again, ready for continuing on the cycle. So that's kind of where I'm aiming for this. But you'll get a better feel for your character and for what your character's trying to do. So let me just erase all of this. And then hit save. Animation overload, hello there. I'm really well, thank you. I'm in a really good mood today. I've had a really good day, I've had a great weekend. I've had lots of free time because Mrs. T is away this weekend. So I've had time to be on the computer and do some more drawing and preparation for today. Apart from about an hour ago, when the computer froze up and kicked me off the stream. These things happen. But we're back on and things are working again, so we're cracking on with this walk cycle. I need to grab a cup of tea soon, but let's get a couple of these in-betweens done first. So we need to take the selection tool. I'm going to move this body into that ease in and out position at the tops and bottoms of the two extremes of the bobbing up and down. So we turn on the onion skin for the frame before and the frame after, remembering that red is the frame before, as it shows you on the timeline, that's to the left, and green is the following frame to the right. Me too, Soda Pop. I hope so too. I want to download that and give that a go, the fills feature. I might try and do that before next week's stream, so I can demonstrate it next week perhaps. So we know that the frame before in red is the contact position, and the frame after is down, and we're going to favour the down position. So if we zoom in to see as much of the body as we can, then it makes it easier to see exactly where we're going to favour to. So if we draw a quick line, either the top of the body or the bottom, let's take the bottom here. So the frame before is here, and the frame after is here. We want to favour the bottom position of that, nearer to the bottom if we can. So with the selection tool, let's highlight the body, click and drag it down, and move it really close to the bottom position. Hopefully you can see that is quite close there. If I zoom in, you can see it's closer to the green than it is to the red. And we're going to do that with each of the in-betweens here. Shagty, hello there, glad you could make it. Amar, did you download the latest nightly build, or the build from that PR task? because that has been downloaded by some people and tested. I believe Beamuth was one of the people that tested it and said it works for them. So I'm guessing you've got the wrong version, but I've not tried to download it yet, so I can't tell you where to download it from. In fact, let me check. I did ask the question earlier, didn't I? On the Tahoma Discord server. Did somebody answer? Yes. In fact, Manung John has just posted that, Amar. If you're on the Tahoma Discord server, if you go to the development channel, it's told you exactly how to download a build from a specific PR. So from the link I've got in my description of this video, it's got a link to the PR and he's got instructions on there. So if you want to take a look at that, there we go, bring it down here. So if you go to the development room, and then it's got instructions now as added of how to download and run that particular artifact. So if you take a look at that and see how that goes for you. And I see Maria's shared. Excellent. I love the egg face. The only thing, if the circle is for the kneecaps as I did, you haven't got the circle moving up and down with the body. That needs to move at the same pace. So the centre of the circle is at the point where the top of the leg joins the body to help you keep the knee position. And he seems to stay down quite a lot and then hop up. I can't quite tell visually. He seems to stay down there, so that's something happening there with the timing. I think you've got the position, body position in the same place for 2 frames. So you want to check, have a little check on that, and make sure you're following the line here on the guide sheet, on the reference sheet. But yeah, that's coming along nicely. But as I say, the sooner you can spot any errors like that, the sooner you can fix them, and the less work there is to do later. So take another look at that and see how you've got the positions there. I'm happy to take a look at it myself if you want me to. Let me know and I can do so during the stream, or we can do it after the stream. Just let me know with that. Otherwise, I'm happy to leave you to it. Yes, that's right, the Tahoma server. Yeah, let us know how that goes, Amar, if that works for you. Because I really think a lot of people will find that useful. It's something that's asked for so much. Okay, so drawing number 4, we're working on the even drawings now for these in-betweens. So we'll highlight this, and we're going between the down position and the passing. And if you remember, that's easing out of the down position. So again, want it nearest the down position, which is the red drawing, which is at the lower part. So I'll drag that down a little bit. So it eases out of the down to the passing. Number 6, between passing and up, needs to be nearest the up, which is the green, because it's easing into the very peak of kind of the ball bounce. And then 8, again, needs to be nearest the up, which is the red in this case. You can see there the red up, the red U, and then the down comes down quite quickly. Then next, between contact and down again, nearest the down is in green. So bring this down here. And you see the page can move out once you start to see the pattern. It's quite quick working through this. Again, just for the simple cycle. And bear in mind, if you wanted to do this as a template for underneath your drawings, this can be really useful. So if you do some simple shapes of just circles or cylinders for the character moving around and walking, once you've got the right pacing, you can then come back afterwards, create a new level and draw your real character over the top and add that extra personality once you've got the spacing working. So this one is nearest the down, so that's nearer the red. Then from passing to up is near the up, So basically you're nearest the extremes. So you're nearest the down or the up on these. And then where it goes from up to the contact, again once it's nearest the top position there. So I've only got the body moving, but if I zoom out a tiny bit here, it's easily done, Maria, and it's something that I don't always like to do, to tell people, because it's not nice to tell people when you see something that's not quite right when they've worked hard at it. But in this scenario, we all want to know when we've done things a little bit wrong. Some things we can ignore, and others a bit more fundamental. And I think the fundamental things we need to be told about. So I hope that's okay. When you say, hi there Soda Pop, when you mention the multicolour fills, what do you mean by that exactly? I didn't see that. I did see you post a message say you was about to go live to demonstrate something about OpenToonz. Multicolour fills. Do you mean the vector fills where you've got the two colours for a radial gradient and a linear gradient? Is it those? Okay, so hopefully I've got all the drawings in place. We're now showing this for 16 frames instead of 8. Something I didn't do earlier is change the FPS. So instead of being 6, we can now double it to 12 frames a second to go twice as quick because we've got twice as many frames. So let's see how this looks with loop play. And again, hit save all first before you do anything like a loop play, because that can cause the program to go a bit slow. Okay, so hopefully you can now see that nice, comfortable, soft bounce with the ease in and out at the top and bottom. And that might not be the kind of bounce or walk that you want. You might prefer to have the character stomping quite firmly on the ground, so rather than easing into the contact position, it's a quicker movement, so it stops quite firmly. So you might want to change that. I can see a little bit of drift left and right, but I think that's just about acceptable. And because I used copy and paste, I can also see that it's the same drawing in each drawing. So again, tracing over the previous drawing might be better than copying and pasting or using the duplicate. And you can see the flickering of the legs. So let's take care of that. So again, we want to in between the legs. So starting on the first missing drawing number 2, we're going from 1 to 3. So it's worth recognizing what your character's doing. Don't just draw between the lines, because you won't quite get a good walk or a good piece of movement. Absolutely, Kevin. Yeah, 2D animation now that we've got some free software like this is just great. It's great for everybody to have this. So let me turn on the onion skin for 1 and 3, and this is where in a short while you might struggle to see which leg is which, so having color-coded legs can be really useful, especially if you're using Toonz raster or vector levels, because you can change the color and bring down the alpha to actually hide one of the legs if you draw them in different colors, so you can just see one leg at a time. So we're drawing between drawings 1 and 3, and we're going from the contact to the down position. So in the same way as the body is nearer to the down, we want to consider where we're going to draw the lines, if they're going to be nearer to one side or the other. So let's choose the brush. The first thing to consider are the feet, and I can see that foot is still a little small. Okay, so I mentioned earlier how the position between the heel of each foot is the same between each frame to get the same pace of movement across the screen. So going in between 2 feet positions on the floor, you want the new foot position to be in between those positions that you've already drawn. So that is the place where the heel needs to go in the new foot. So you can start with that. As Dave likes to say, moving from the known to the unknown. So we'll try and draw the foot at the right size. In this case, I'm happy for the foot just to go flat, but you might have a softer foot, so you might actually want this to curl up a little bit, so you see the foot sort of go down in 2 pieces and give it a more organic, fluid motion. Again, it depends on your character. But for me, the foot being flat is fine. So we're bending the knee there as he comes down. So now the foot is in position. We want the leg to be drawn nearer to the extremes rather than the middle. So I'm to draw this nearer to the red position than to the green. So if imagine the kneecap here on the red compared to the kneecap here on the green. So I'm going to draw this nearer to the red one, and then this is the right leg, so it goes to the centre of the body there. And the left leg, same thing again. It's just come off the ground in the red position, it's touching the ground. The green is off the ground, and then it'll swing fast through the body. So we want this in the air because the floor is moving quite quickly, and if we leave the foot still a little bit on the floor, it needs to move that distance we've just talked about before. So if you lift it off the ground, you'll avoid that dragging along the floor. Yes, I mentioned this earlier, Kevin, that colouring in, shading in the back foot can be beneficial to recognise the difference between each foot. So let's draw this foot in the air between those 2 positions. So you can see the heel here to here. So I want to favour the red position a little bit to draw it there. And then again, favouring the red for the position of the knee, and imagining drawing to the centre of the line, but the leg is behind the body. So if I turn off the onion skin from drawings 1 to 3, you see that. So I'm going to try and add that each time. So a quick check on the chat up there. So Soda Pop's talking about the fill example, I guess, that you was doing the other day. So using the level strip only, multi-colour the first level in the strip. Using the level strip, only multicolour the first level in the strip. Then you turn the fill tool to onion skin mode and use the rectangle fill on the other. Oh yes, the onion skin mode. Yeah, I cover this in my course. Just a quick promotion of the course. It's one of the features I do cover in the course, along with some of the other fill techniques. So using the onion skin mode to fill from the colour of the previous drawing that you can see in onion skin. And using the rectangle fill, it'll use the colours that's all behind to multi-fill based on the first level. That's right, yeah. It depends how close your drawings are to each other for doing that. I used it when I had a character with lots of colours in different areas. By using the onion skin, it's easy to see where they're overlaid, and using the standard tap fill feature, bucket fill. Yeah, I imagine at some point I might do something on the channel. I've not got a plan to do many drawing tutorials or some of the drawing tool tutorials on here. The next few videos I kind of got planned in the near future are to do with importing assets. So you've seen I've already done quite a few videos about importing pictures. The next set I want to do videos about importing audio, what kinds of audio, how you can work with audio in OpenToonz. And then I wanted to get to video, adding video. And one of the things I wanted to do, after seeing a few recent things, including by Kevin, Cuball, is to be able to animate on top of video. I was really keen to do that. That looks so much fun. So I was going to record a video myself of something innocent in the world. I know you've done lots of things like vegetables that you cut up, or throwing rubbish in a bin, pushing a chair over, and giving them all a character and having some life to them, where they're saying, no, don't cut me, or what have you. So I was going to do that as kind of the next set of videos after the audio. And then after that, I'm not sure what I'll be doing for videos, apart from knowing that I plan to be heading in the direction of the Futurama project. I'd like to bring that back in, so that may be the following videos there. Okay, Tom, are things okay now? They seem okay so far my end. I mean, as we did before, if I turn off the camera, that does help the CPU and GPU usage my side. So we'll see how that goes. Happy birthday to Claude's dad. Very happy birthday to you. You've done some of them amazing, Kevin, of yours and of Beermouth. I think shared a few that we shared on the channel last week. They were really good. So both of them are just inspiring to do. So I'd love to get to those when I get to the video import. Because again, it's one of these common questions. People say, how do you add photos? How do you add audio, video? And the answer is really simple. It's drag and drop. It's like, the answer is almost, have you tried? Because the instinctive thing for me is to drag and drop it in. You do need FFmpeg open and installed to work with certain file types, and some files still don't quite work, so I'm trying to cover that in here. For instance, I think 32-bit audio doesn't work. You need to be 8 or 16 at the minute, although that's changing into Homer. And same for video. Not all MP4s will import, but some will. So it's worth me sharing that in these videos and getting to do a bit of a fun task or two, like the cue ball animation. So I'm really looking forward to getting to that. Let me try for a second, Tom, bringing back the camera. Hello again. See if that still continues to stream okay, or if it slows down or buffers, let me know, and I might take it off again as we did the other week. Yes, Claude, yeah, we've talked about this before. I have shown it in other videos. At the start of the Futurama process, there's a separate playlist on the channel for Futurama fan film. You can see that. At the start of that, I explained how I was going to share my assets between different scenes, and it's by creating a scene containing just backgrounds, one containing just characters, and then bring them into a separate scene, which is the actual shot of the scene with the background pulled in and the characters. But the question of how to save the levels are saved when you save your scene. So this level called C is available on disk. I mean, I can show you that here. So if I bring down this is the project folder where I've got my output when I rendered this. If we go into the project folder for this and go into extras, you can see the images are all saved as level C, with each individual drawing as a TIFF and numbered for the frame numbers. So you can see I've got 16 drawings on disk for the 16 drawings in the timeline. That's because they're standard raster levels. If you had a vector level or Toonz raster level, then you'd have a single file on disk, and they would be stored in your drawings folders, as I did here for the drawing earlier, a vector test vector level of level A. And then you can just load that into another scene by right clicking on the timeline, choosing load level, and then go into your folder and choosing the level to load. And now I've got the level A, the vector level that we was looking at the very beginning of the stream when I demonstrated about drawing straight lines. So sharing assets is so easy. You just right click, load level, and then find where that drawing level is and pull it in. And if you are within the same project, editing the drawings in that level will edit them for all drawings in the project. So all the different scenes in the project share that drawing. But if you want to choose import to a different project, you can then edit it as an independent copy. But yes, I do want to, as I've said a few times, at some point that is in my list, absolutely. But I was talking about the next few sets of videos I'm making of audio and video, that is in my list. So potentially, maybe that should be the following video after those. I should think about it. To go through the audio, video, I've done pictures, so the next one could be about sharing levels. So yeah, thank you, Claude, for reminding me. Callistus Animations, hello. So you're asking where you can download the reference. I simply Googled it. If you go to Google and just type in walk cycle, this picture will be one of the first 2 or 3 pictures you'll find on there. And then you just right click, save it to disk. And then this is the flipbook, which I got from the Windows menu. Flipbook here. And then you right click in there and choose load images. And then you can point to that image on disk and then load it into here, and then you can zoom in and out, pan it around, and use it as a nice handy reference within the program. So have a look at that. Or if you take a look at the first part of the stream, which is a unfortunately a different video on my channel because we got cut off partway through. So if you take a look at that, you'll see exactly how I loaded that in. So you can take a look there. Going to cook the cake now. Great. Have a piece for me, Claude. But yes, I should try and do that. But the basics of it is really, really simple for sharing assets. Aldo Alves, hello there. Good to have you with us. Oh, you also said, and how to load it into the level strip. The levels are shown in the level strip if you select them on your timeline. So if you've got the level strip open, if I go into my vector level and with a pen here, draw a big letter V, that's the vector level. And then if I go back to my body, you'll see my 16 drawings for this monster character. And it'll highlight on each one and show you how far you're zoomed in. And if I go back to the vector level, it then shows the vector level. So you don't load them into the level strip directly, but the level strip shows which level you're looking at in your timeline. So again, I can delete that column, which removes the vector level, but it's still available on disk as a drawing file. Okay, Yulichek, I'll take a look at that for challenge number 4. Are you happy with the output? What I'm saying is this your first attempt at the challenge? Is it worth trying a second attempt and posting that as well, maybe? I've not seen it yet, but sometimes it's worth doing a couple or 3 attempts to get a better feel for the challenge. So rather than trying to just complete it and move on to the next, to do it a couple of times and to really understand what you're doing with the challenge and then posting that one. So yes, I'll take a look later on today. Okay, so that's the first in between of the legs. So go to the next one. Let's turn on the onion skin. Move on to the body and legs column so I can see that the place between them. And again, to consider what we're moving from and to. So we're moving from the down position, going to the passing position. So again, the feet that's on the floor have to move at the same pace. So the heel of the foot is there on the following drawing, and the previous drawing is here. So this one, I need to draw the heel there, which is basically where the toe ends on the green foot there. So let's undo that. Draw the foot in. And we're going from the right hand side to the center. So as I said earlier, we need to consider about the pacing of the movement here. And we want to favor the outside extremities of the walk, of the stretch forward and then reach backwards, and it moves quicker in the middle. So the foot moves at the same pace, but we want to favour slightly the red leg there. Let's try that again. And then the rear foot is moving, and these really, it's in the air we need to favour more so. So we're going from the preceding red line to the green, so that's from the down to the passing as it moves forward. So we want to favour really the position at the back here rather than the one at the front, and you can see there quite clearly where the foot is nearer to the back one, and that's because the foot will lift up and slowly come round and then move quicker. And this is again part of the ease in and ease out that we practice with the bouncing ball. So you can see where the knee is here and it's moving round to the front there, and try and picture the arc as it moves. So the knee will move to perhaps here, just moving a little bit further forward. So I can draw that line in and then up towards the centre again behind the body. So let's look at that. Good. Drawing 6. So between those two we're going from the passing to the up position, so it's quite in the centre of the body, so we don't really need to favour anything, it's moving at the steady pace. We'll look at again the foot that's on the floor, we need to keep the same pacing. The heel's off the ground here on the rear foot on the following drawing, so let's look at the toes. We're going from here to here, so we want the toe to be roughly in the centre here of where the leg is here. So let's draw the toe first to the foot. It's flat on the ground, and then we want it coming down in the middle there. And the leg coming forward again, it's moving quite quickly through the centre position, so it's slowing down as it gets to the outside, so we need to again favour the green as it moves forward. So the ankle, if you imagine, is going from here going to here, so don't put it in the centre, put it perhaps here nearer to the front position, and the foot is trailing first at the back and then the toes are lifting up. So let's decide how that's moving as well. So I'm thinking that needs to go virtually straight down, sort of in between the two. Check we've got the right length. The knee needs to move here a little bit, so it's again it's arching. You can see where the knee is and it's coming up towards the top there. Let's make this a little smaller, and then coming back towards that center point again of the body where the leg joins. So let's look at those three. Okay, so drawing 8, going from the up position to the contact again. So let's start with the rear leg that's touching the floor. So the toes are here, going to here. So again, halfway position there. So let's undo that. The knee needs to be roughly halfway. Again, slightly favouring the rear. And then this joins up to the centre. Where the foot comes down, this is where you can determine the pacing of the foot, to whether it's a stomp into the ground or a gentle swing into the ground. So where do you want to ease into or out of? Now the foot won't be touching the floor, and we're going from here to here. But again, swinging in an arc with the leg swinging forward, the lower leg swinging forward, as well as the knee coming down towards this position. So I'll have the knee coming down a little bit. I'm tempted to go halfway between the two, to be honest. Think about the swing. It swings up, slows down really, and then comes down. So perhaps we should favour the preceding, the up position a little bit. So let's do that first. We can always change it later. So the leg is coming down to here. Let's draw the line to the upper leg, and then the foot is swinging down from this angle to the second one, so we'll favour the red, so it's still slightly to the left, and the foot coming round, ready to place down on the ground. So let me just see those first 8 drawings, because then we can use the onion skin to trace them for the opposite leg, if they're in the right position. Again, this gives us a very consistent, almost mechanical walk cycle from the left leg and the right, but we're starting to get a feel for the movement. So let's hit loop play, and it'll flash on the second part we've not drawn, but it's the first part we're looking at, and that's okay. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to take drawing 10 and show the drawing 8 drawings before, which is drawing 2 on onion skin. And then we can trace these legs, but again swapping the opposite leg. So I'm starting with the leg that was previously joined at the front, which is the right leg, and we'll draw that as the left leg behind the character, and then this is the right leg now, so that can draw in front of the character. So that's swapped those round. So we've already worked out the pacing of where we want to favour, to ease in and ease out, so we can just copy them to get the positions in the same favouring, but just with the opposite legs. Just checking on the chat for a second. Yeah, has anyone here downloaded the Nightly for Tame with 2D? Or at least it's not the official Nightly off the website, but the latest one for that PR. Okay. It's something I'm going to do very shortly, not on the stream of course, but I'll do the next couple of days I think. So again, starting with the leg that's behind, it's easier to ignore the line this way. And again, I'm just drawing this in a very simple way. And you might decide that for you, you want to redraw it each leg individually on the opposite sides, and that's fine. And particularly if your legs are different in some way, you've got, as I say, you've got a limp, or you're walking in a territory that's kind of it's uneven, so you're walking over rocks or something, so it's uneven, so you might be walking a different height. You might want to draw them individually, but for the simple basic way of getting started with a walk cycle, drawing them by copying the left and the right, I think is a great way to get started, just to start to get a feel for the positions of the feet for a walk cycle and the positions of the legs. Plus, doing it this way, you can get to the end result much quicker. Have you commented, Amar, on Manong John's instructions to tell him what the problem is? I'm guessing you may have. I hope they can fix them and get them working soon. So again, let me zoom out properly. I've hit save all before I hit loop play. We're showing 16 frames. Let's hit loop play and see how that looks with the legs all in between. Good, I'm happy with that. The knees kind of have a very strong kick when he stomps down. But that's fine, that looks good. I'm happy with that, yeah. How are you getting on? I've not checked the Discord for a while to see if you've shared anything new. Let's have a look there. I see Mr. Doodles has shared something, but I can't play that. That's not playing for me. It only shows the first frame, unfortunately. And you've shared it as an MP4. If you can render that to a GIF, then we can see the cycle actually cycling through. Just noticed a few new people joined us, including Claude. I thought you'd already joined, Claude. Although there was an issue, I remember joining Discord before. So glad you've managed to join us today. Just inviting some newbies over to the stream if they want to join us. There we go. Oh, that's a shame, Amar. We'll get that sorted. We'll definitely get that sorted. And when I've tried it out, I'll share a link myself on the Discord as well, if I can find an easy way to get to it. Callistus, which videos are you referring to that you'd like a link to? Okay, so it's 6 o'clock. I've been going for 3 hours. I was hoping to do another walk cycle, but I think I'll do that next time. But I think I might have a quick chat about it before I go today, just so you know where we are, and to explain what the next stage of this is as far as I'm concerned. Because there's a couple of stages you could do. The next one for this character is you could add the arms, and you'd add the arms when you had 8 frames on the very basic walk cycle for the legs, so you could then in between them, as we did for the legs. And basically the arms need to move the opposite way to the legs, and it's something that is really obvious to everybody, to all of us, until you start drawing, and it's so easy to accidentally draw the right arm forwards as the right leg is forwards, and it needs to be the opposite. So if your right leg is forwards, your right arm is backwards. So you want to add the arms in the opposite direction, swinging. And for this kind of basic character again, I would have put a dot on the original body to show where the arm swings from. But next week, what I'd like to work on is to add rotation into the walk cycle. So this simple walk cycle shows the legs hinged at the same point on the body as they swing around, whereas in reality, if I start a new level, to start a new raster level here, if you've got a humanoid character or a monster, but let's start with kind of a rough sketch for a human. If his right leg, which is nearest to us, is in the contact position going forwards, and his left leg is sort of coming backwards like this, and that's behind, so the right leg is nearest to us. When you take the next step, your right leg will then be coming backwards from the back part of your body. So you see here it's at the front of your body, and it would swing to the back as your hips rotate. And again, I talked about this before when we talked about walk cycles, about the hips rotating around here. So your right leg starts at the front, and you take a step, it moves to the back and then to the front. And the same goes for your arms. So if the right leg is forwards, your right arm is backwards. Let me try and do it without breaking his arm. and your left arm is coming forwards, and then as you take a step and swap, the right arm will come from the front part of the body, and your left arm will come from the back part of the body. So again, the shoulders are swinging around here as you walk. So you go from seeing perhaps the back part of my shoulder to seeing the front part of my chest as you walk. And as you walk in the opposite, as your hips and shoulders move in the opposite directions, the same happens at the lower area. So as the right shoulder's forward, you see the back part of my shoulder, the right leg is backwards, and you see almost the front part of the hip. So they work in opposite directions to each other. So you've got the swing, constant swing of the shoulder going backwards and forwards. The same for the hip going backwards and forwards, but it's also some movement in the side directions. And if you take a walk and have a think about where your body's moving, you kind of feel your hips lifting up and down as they go backwards and forwards and doing that kind of a motion. And it reminds me of a rower in a canoe. So if we draw a bit of a canoe shape here, and you've got somebody in the centre like this, sitting up. And they've got the oars coming out here. Like this. As you row the canoe, you'll lift this up and over and swing it backwards, and then start to lift up again. And this opposite side goes in the opposite direction. So you're swinging one up and down as the other one goes down and then up. And you kind of got that feeling in your hips and in your shoulders. So you need to try and incorporate that into the walk cycles as well. So that's what I want to work on next week for the cycle. And I got a plan for a new little monster that I wanted to do this with, because by using the Eggman, he's kind of almost like a solid shape. So it's difficult to imply twist. You can do quite easily. So if I go to another frame here, I could start off with my Eggman like this. Let me get his big old eyes in there. Start to draw a bit slower to give the computer time to catch up. So he starts off with his leg coming forward, and instead of being from the centre of his body, as I have been doing, if I select that, copy and paste it just to there, and then to there. Right, instead of drawing his leg from the centre of the body and the back leg again from the centre of the body, instead of that you'd have his right leg nearest to us, nearer to us, and then the rear leg nearer to the back. So kind of that connects here and the rear leg connects here. And then the positions, the joining positions, would alternate and swing between those two. So the center position of being up, his leg would be from the center of his body, and the passing would be near the center. And then when his right leg goes towards the back, that would come from the back part of his body, and then his left leg would come from the right hand side, or should I say the screen right of his body. So you kind of got this swinging position here, going from right to left for his legs. I think some do, Soda Pop. I don't. I personally am more of a more care about the appearance, because it's how the program looks, and if you can find what you need to find, that makes it more usable for me. So I want the program to look nice and be able to find everything in there, and the appearance of it makes it feel more professional. So no, I'm with you on that, and I hope we can get some of these newer looking features ported over to OpenToonz if we can. I know some features we can't because it's like initial layouts of the screen. I don't think they'll accept in OpenToonz, and they really make a big difference as well. But the new layouts of the rooms in OpenToonz are much better than they used to be, despite older users that are transferring over getting confused by not having the basics room at the top. I think it's still a better layout for new people. Absolutely, yeah. If it's not well designed or designed well, it's less appealing. So you really want it to look nice, and the new icons have made a huge difference for me for it looking like a more modern program. But a lot of what you talk about for appearance is also about usability. So it's about when you click in a text box, how you edit it. There used to be, I don't know if there still is, if I move my pointer into a different panel, that text box would lose focus and you couldn't type in it. That seems okay now, but that was one of the old bugs that used to bug me, that you try and edit something and you suddenly lose focus. Madness. So I'd rather that get fixed than get a brand spanking new feature. Yeah, absolutely. Making sure things work like they do in other programs. Yep, so you can pick up the program and start using it. One of my recent bugbears that I've not logged a bug for, and I really must, is the output settings. If I use a mouse, where's my pointer? If I use a mouse in here to scroll this window up and down, because it's now a tall window, if my mouse pointer happens to go in front of a drop down as I'm scrolling, so if I scroll up now suddenly that drop down is changed, and it's changed the file type, but I've not clicked in it or selected to change it. I'm just scrolling up and down. So I can scroll up and down here fine. If I go to the right and scroll up and down, I've changed it. That is madness. And I've seen so many people complaining and reporting a bug saying, I'm rendering out my video file because they've chosen a GIF or MP4, but it creates multiple files on disk, and that's always because, if I scroll around, let me try and find the option, it's always because the mouse pointer was over this bottom drop down, the multiple rendering, and changed it from none to one of the other two options. If you change it to those, you get a different video file for each of the outputs on the FX schematic, or for each of the inputs into the render output. So you want that always on none, unless you're deliberately trying to create different video files to create layers to put together later in After Effects or Video Editor. But that happens because people are scrolling up and down with the mouse pointer near the bottom. So if I scroll down now, it just adjusts it. It's a terrible, terrible feature, and that needs fixing urgently. I really must log that. So yeah, we need to get these small things repaired. I see we've got another walk cycle. Kalebai 2, a Moonwalk walk cycle. Now moonwalking, you definitely want to grab a reference for that to be able to get it done right, because you might think it's just a walking forward cycle and scroll the character backwards, but it isn't, because you can't do that in the real world. So you want to be careful how you do that. That looks really nice like that. I think he's moving a little bit too fast. Both of his feet are sliding at once, but that's not a bad effort there. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Amar saying that if you create one level, it should work like one layer versus the possibility of having multiple levels or level types in one layer. I don't know, Amar. I think I might disagree there. I really like the fact, as I've done here, I've created 2 levels in the same column, or as people like to call them, layers. But it's 2 different levels, which means I've got a set of 16 drawings here for the monster walk cycle, and then some separate drawings afterwards. I've not had to create a separate column to have them in. Now, if I had to create a separate column to create a different level in, you'd have many columns all staggered down the screen. If I open my level strip here, you can see that level C has 16 drawings. Level E only has 2, but they share the same column, which means that they can share the same effects that I've already set up. I've not got to duplicate those. It means the set share the same position using the Animate tool. So if I've scaled them, or if I've got a motion that's moving, it can apply over multiple drawings. And as Claude was talking about earlier for sharing assets, it means I can share the asset of the level with those 2 drawings in separate from the asset with the 16 drawings in, but they still share the same column. So I really like that feature myself, but I do know that new users find it confusing because they come in, they talk about layers, they don't understand the difference between a column and a drawing level, and that's a bit of a hurdle to get over at the start. Yes, they create more files on disk. That's fine. It means you can share them with other people, but you can share specifically only what you want to share. And if you don't want more files, use the same level. You don't have to create different levels. So it's your choice on how you manage these, and I think it's useful, especially in teams, to understand how the file system works and sharing of levels. Sort of, Matthias. I think in moonwalking you still need to lift 1 foot up to go to the front. So at some point you will have 1 foot on the ground. And when you've got 1 foot on the ground, you're not moving backwards. Personally, when I'm in my own head, Tom, when I'm thinking about columns and the timeline in the X sheet, because I like using the X sheet and the timeline. I've used both. And I like the timeline because the X sheet, because I started using the X sheet when I first got hold of OpenToonz, so I got used to that first. But many years ago when I was using Flash, I was used to the timeline. So I work both interchangeably, but when I'm on the timeline, I, in my own head, call these rows, which to me feels like the right thing to call them. If you're going to call them columns in the X sheet, these are rows. Neither of them really are layers, because a layer you'd picture as being stacked in front of another layer. And if you're only using the timeline and drawing frame by frame, that's exactly what you get. You get the columns stacked in front of other columns acting like layers. But as soon as you start using effects, the layer system that you see in the timeline and X sheet, these aren't layers anymore, or at least they're adjustable layers. So you can move different columns or rows in front of other columns. So thinking about these as layers isn't strictly accurate, I think, is the best way to think about it, because they can change, and in other software layers can't change positions. So as long as you know and understand layers can change positions, you can't think about a layer constantly being in front of another layer in our sense. But I know you understand all of this. It's only in my head that I consider them to be rows and columns, just because of the way they're laid out. For me, using the word layer works just as well, but it's just important for people to know that a layer isn't consistently in front of the other layers that's behind it on the timeline. They can be adjusted. But yeah, layer works for most people. It does complicate it. And it's a little something to get over at the start of using OpenToonz. It's not a lot, it's not hard, but it's just a little something. Right, I'm going to take a very short break for 5 minutes, get myself a fresh cup of tea, and then I'll come back and then we'll see if we're going to work on anything else. I think I might just about leave it for the day, so we'll wind up, I think, after that. But let me grab a drink and have a quick refreshment break, and I'll see you back here in about 5 minutes. Welcome back. So let's catch up with the chats that I missed while I went away. Yeah, so talking about layers and columns, for me it'd be a good thing to change the name from columns to layer. I think because most people will be used to using a timeline, and the initial view, the drawing window, you change over to there. So the standard drawing room has a timeline on the bottom here. I think calling that a column when literally it goes across the screen like a row is confusing before you start. It doesn't mean anything in this context, calling it a column. So you've got to either stick with calling it columns and having it being wrong, change it on the timeline to call rows and having it inconsistent with the X sheet. The menus would all have to change depending on which view you use in, and you can have the column, have the X sheet and timeline on screen at the same time. So which one does the menu show? You can't have it changing depending where you're selected. If you're drawing in the viewer and opening the menu, which should it show? So I think that's out. So changing the name entirely from column to layer or something similar would be better. And I think layer is a suitable name. So it wouldn't bother me to do that, really. And as the FX thing I was talking about earlier, I don't think that's really, it's not really much of an issue. It's a slight red herring, but it's just important for people to understand that the layers can be changed, the order can be changed, and they can be used in different ways with the effects. So I'd be quite happy with that, I think. I'm going back a good few minutes now where Tom was saying that a column in the X sheet is the same as layer in timeline, although in reality in the timeline for the context menu and everything else they're still called columns. Level is a level independent from the X sheet and the timeline, that's correct, but again the the word level doesn't mean anything to newbies, which is why I always try and say drawing level. It's a collection of drawings. It's a collection. It's a stack of drawings. It's a group of drawings. Level is a horrendous word. So if it's my choice, I'd change level to something else. Let me pop the chat up on here now, just for a few minutes while we're chatting here. See if it kills my computer. If it goes too slow, let me know and we'll have to kill it off. The GPU there is struggling to keep up with it all. So let me take my webcam off. That always helps a little bit. It's still quite high with the chat on there. So if I take that off, will that help? Let's pause this a second. I think it's all just quite busy at the minute. Okay. Yeah, just catching up with all the chat, which is always nice to see in these streams. Yeah. Of course, you've got the sub-X sheets as well to group your columns or layers. So maybe that could be called a folder. I don't know. Into Homer, it's been changed to sub-scene, which is kind of okay. It's kind of a scene within a scene, so that's quite nice. The workflow is slightly different from other software, AMR, but not massively. You don't need to learn all the ways to organise and work with your drawings. If you're working just with traditional animation, you can just work with a single level, a single sheet of paper, and draw on that in a single column, and then perhaps have a background as a separate drawing level. So it's not too much, potentially. When you say in some cases, based on the file structure, you can lose work, I don't know how you do lose work. I've lost very little work. It's not self-contained in one file. That's right. But because it's not self-contained into one file, if one file gets corrupted, the rest don't. So you don't lose it. Yeah, if you transition traditional skills to the computer and haven't touched an animation program before, or even if you have, it can be tricky. But there's just a learning curve to learn. It's as simple as that. You've got to learn. It's a complex program, so you need to learn some basic skills. But this is one of the reasons I put together my Introduction to 1.5 tutorial to try and cover all those basics. And the whole video is it 20 minutes long? And half of that is teaching the new things you'll need to get into the program, and the other half is possibly just kind of using them. So I don't think it's that long if you can learn the basics of the program in 20 minutes. The learning curve is only steep because it's more flexible and it's different to other programs, but it's not insurmountable. Golden Slime says you lost a whole football match because of red frames. It might feel like that, but it's unlikely you really lost them. Normally, as I've shared in my video about red frames, they're just misreferenced from the scene, and often it's a user error where you do a save as to move the scene away from the drawings so you lose them, or occasionally it's a crash of the scene but the drawings are all still there, so you've still got all the drawings that you made. So I'm still catching up with lots of chat. Yes, Kronos. MP4s on Discord don't always work. So if you can upload it as a GIF, that's more likely to work. Enyo-san, hello there. I've caught up to your message. Hello, good to have you with us. Alina, hello. Nice to have you here. I'm almost through there. We're getting there. Yes, I think, Tom, you shared the concept map on, was it OpenToonz or on Tahoma? Maybe on the Tahoma channel. I've not had a look at that since the first one you shared, so I must take another look at that. No, you're absolutely right, Amar. When considering designing an application, you consider the user. I don't think this application was designed originally. I think it was put together to solve a problem or an issue, and it solved it, and then it expanded and expanded to where it is today. A lot of the new features, the basic features almost that we're using, weren't in the original program. It wasn't about drawing in vector mode or in the raster modes. It was about scanning and colouring. So there's lots of things that are a little bit broken, that aren't quite working as smoothly as they should. Yeah, absolutely right. I'm following through the chat, and I don't disagree with any of it so far, really. Right, I've almost caught up now. Okay, Tom, to Homer server. I know I saw it somewhere, and you shared a screen grab of one part of the map, or the early stage of the map. Yeah, that's the kind of picture I've got in my mind that I'm trying to share during these videos and the streams. But the view of OpenToonz being difficult is just by looking at a complex program. But I've seen Toon Boom when people use it, and that looks complex. There's an Australian guy, Onion Skin, who animates using Toon Boom, and he's always got the schematic open, and before he starts the new drawing or level, he's adjusting points on the schematic. I've no idea what he's doing. And that's, to me, if you've got to go to a schematic to start drawing, that's not a good thing. So, you know, all programs have got their learning curve. Yeah, if you could share that on the Discord, if you haven't already, Tom, it'd be good to take a look at. Finally caught up with the chat. Yeah, if you could share that, that'd be great. Yeah, OpenToonz, it just takes a while to get used to a few of the concepts, but honestly, it doesn't take that long. It depends which angle you're coming from. If you don't read up either in the help files or watch videos of tutorials or other people using it, it's easy to fall over and get it wrong. Likewise, it's also easy to get it right by following the right tutorials and reading around to understand. But it just means every new user has to do that. But I think it's always like that in a lot of programs that's complicated, really. Yeah, unfortunately, Amar, this wasn't designed as an animator's program for us to work with like this. So we have to stick with what we've got. The program's free, so we can't really complain anyway about it. We just have to jump over that little hurdle of learning a few things first before we can start working with it. Yeah, exactly. Some get it faster than others. Oh, nice. Nice, Maria. Excellent. So where are we here then? So let me just check through my notes. So I was going to do 2 different walk cycles today. I don't think I'll be able to start on the second one, and I don't think it's worth getting partway through. So I think I'll leave that for next week. We'll get on more of an attitude in the walk cycle and more flexibility. So we're on this one. It's kind of just following the basic walk cycle we've got from the reference at the top right here from Richard Williams, just to get the position of the feet moving and to in between it, to have it looking smooth and trying to have it looking solid so everything's in the right place. That's fine for first attempt. Start to get a feel for how a walk cycle might look. So next week we'll then include the twisting of the hips and the shoulders. So we'll have a new little fake monster character, and we'll have him turning a little bit as he walks. Possibly his head as well might turn a little bit, so moving from side to side as he walks can also help with that. And maybe add a bit of an attitude to the walk. So we'll decide on the kind of walk, whether it's a happy one or an angry one, and we'll try and include that in as well, I think. Just catching up on the chat up here. Thank you, Full Chain. Okay. Yeah, it's not only open, it's every time he seems to do anything, he's reconnecting points. Now maybe he's got some sort of scaling set up or something, or he's got his different columns visible, so it's making one invisible and making another visible. I'm not sure, but he always seems to do so. And the same goes for, let me try and find it. There's another YouTuber that uses, I think, Toon Boom. I've got a link down below here. Stylus Rumble. She always has the schematic open and is plugging in and unplugging parts of the schematic. But anyway, my basic point is that has a lot of complex controls that you have to learn. You couldn't just fall into them. It may not have the same timeline, level, column shenanigans that we've got, but they've all got their own things to learn. Yeah, that's right, Amar. You didn't know what a level was or saw it in any program before. That's fine, but it's not hard to learn and for someone to share with you that a level is just a collection of drawings. That's it. And then you can start having different collections of drawings for different characters. So it's not a lot to pick up, I think, but it is something to know before you can work effectively. But yeah, there's lots of ways to get into the program. Hopefully, with the channel here, the people that are following us have learnt enough about how to get into it. And this is why I want to keep doing these streams as well. So each week when we start a new project and do some drawing, the new guys in the stream can see what we're doing, start to understand what levels are, and columns and layers and the timeline and XSheet and everything, and then get into the program quicker. That's the main thing. I think one thing we can do, as been discussed, is to improve the manual so that's clearer. We can change the website so that's clearer. So when you go to download the program for the first time, there'll be a link to show the basic concepts, or after downloading it can show a page to show the basic concepts. But the OpenToonz website and the way that's all been designed really is more functional than user-centric. And that's kind of what's holding us back a little bit. That the OpenToonz, although it's open source and an open program for anybody to download and use, it's not designed for the general public. So the website isn't as clear as it should be. The focus on production and development isn't really where it should be. So we really do just have to make do with what we've got, and to learn to work with it, and to slowly evolve it into a better program, which it is doing. If you go back to version 1 of OpenToonz and take a look at it compared to today, it's miles apart. But it's a nice way to get into animation for free. So yeah, that's good. So hopefully Amar and Sodapop, I think, are sort of on the same page in general with this. But I know that Soda's more of an OpenToonz aficionado. You're keen on the program, same as me. It's the program I've used most recently. People often ask me, would I use Toon Boom if I was given a copy for free, or if I could afford it, or if I wanted to. And OpenToonz does everything I want it to do. Once you've got past that learning curve, which I did a long time ago, I can just get on and do what I want to do. Thank you, Full Chain. Oh, okay. The sub-XSheet functions. Yeah, as I say, I don't know what they're doing. It doesn't bother me, I'm not trying to learn the program, but I do see a lot of clicking and dragging of things, and then they'll draw a picture. It's like, what did you just do? What did I miss? So it's kind of just a point of other programs have complex areas as well. Yeah, that's right, Matthias. It's designed fundamentally for paper animators, and that's not really changed. To be honest, the fact we've got the timeline in is a huge step forward compared to where we used to be. I think we can still keep going. If you can still keep doing what you're doing, Tom, get that conversation moving. That's going to go further with Tahoma, and I think lots of the areas of Tahoma, hopefully, are going to drive OpenToonz. So then we'll start to see some of the manual changes to the manual, changes to the naming and the interface coming over to OpenToonz. So that feels like the way that OpenToonz is going to change rather than directly through it. Hen the Pen, hello there. Tahoma works for you. Absolutely, it does for me too. I'm trying to use OpenToonz as much as I can because that's what a lot of the channel viewers use, and it's the program they know, and it's just easier to demonstrate with. But fundamentally, both programs are the same to me. Interchangeable. It's a little bit like Amar saying earlier of use the program that works for you. Don't be stuck necessarily with one program if you don't want to be. But both programs do the job. Slightly different, and Tahoma's got a couple of extra features that I do like. But for things like this of just drawing a bit of a walking monster, both programs work. I don't need the extra drawing tools for drawing straight lines or for perspective. I don't need the stop motion features. All I need is to be able to place drawings in order on the timeline, do a bit of onion skinning, maybe using some shift and trace now and again, adjusting the colours. That's fine, it works for me. I'm with you, Amar. Usability, 100%. That's what I do in my day job, working with software and making it usable for the user, not for me as a developer. So I'm absolutely with you on that. So Matthews is still a next sheet kind of person. Yeah, I did for a long time. And I forced myself to use the timeline. And I think when I went to Tahoma first 6 months ago or so, because the timeline was prominent, that's when I really forced myself to use it. Before then I was always X-sheet. Thank you, Enyo-san. I appreciate that. Is there anything in the program I don't know about? Yes, there's definitely a few things. Some things I know of and don't know about. So scanning cleanup is one area that's a little bit eluding me. I've not got a scanner I can use, a compatible scanner. I do have a scanner I can scan drawings into the computer and then potentially add them and you clean up with the menus here. I use the cleanup option. So out of all of these options here in the scan menu, cleanup I do use when I'm looking at my animation challenges. So when people have uploaded a GIF with a white background, I drag it into OpenToonz and then I run cleanup on it, which takes away the white background, so I can use onion skinning to see the movement a lot better. That's the only time I use cleanup. The rest of these, I don't know the settings about using, so they elude me. A little bit of the merging of levels. I keep seeing people asking questions about merging levels, converting between levels. I've not really done much of that. I've done a little bit, but off the top of my head I can't help with that. So that I don't know about. But yeah, there's one or two areas still that I've not had reason to get into yet. But we're working through it. We're working through it. I don't know if there's a comment just after, but Full Chain's asking, is it okay to install Tahoma with an existing OpenToonz? Does it affect it in any way? Yes, it's fine, mainly because you don't actually install Tahoma. You download a zip file, you unzip it, and then you move that extracted folder somewhere on your computer, and you run it from that location. So it's not installed where it could collide with OpenToonz. So yeah, I've got both on my computer and I use both at different times. So far, they've not got in each other's way at all because Tahoma is totally self-contained. So even its sandbox is in that extracted zip folder. So it's in that location. So it doesn't use the same sandbox as OpenToonz. But I do save my Tahoma projects in a different location to the OpenToonz one to keep them separate. So if you've not tried Tahoma yet, I'd absolutely say do download it and have a go. It's a little bit of a different program, pretty much the same, so you'll feel at home. 1 or 2 changes. I will point out 2 changes. 1, select the brush option and look at the bottom of the screen. You'll see a status bar with the modifier keys to press to do different things. So Shift, Control and Alt. The second one at the top here, there's a new grid option with a drop down arrow. Click on that and check out the options in there. Really useful, really useful. Editor World Art, thank you for joining us today and thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. And I'm looking over here, by the way, that's where I've got my chat on my other window. I ought to really jump over to my study. There we go. Then we can see the chat pop up there. That might be a little better while I'm not doing any drawing. Yeah, you mentioned other programs there, and I've not used Pencil 2D. I know Soda Pop's mentioned CSP, Clip Studio Paint, before to me. I've not used that, and I don't feel a need to. I get asked quite a bit, have you tried using this program or that program? And it is, without repeating what other people say too much, it is just a tool. So it doesn't matter which tool you use. But you need a tool that can do the job. So don't use a hammer if you're trying to put a screw into the wall. You need a screwdriver. But OpenToonz has the tools that I need, that I want to use, that to me work in the way that makes sense, because they are traditional animation based. And since I was 14 or whatever, watching the behind the scenes of making Disney films, having acetate cells stacked on top of each other, being photographed, and then moving along pegs is what I've always known. So the way OpenToonz works really works well for me. So I'm happy sticking with it. But I know that lots of other programs work well, like Clip Studio Paint works well with OpenToonz. And at the start of today's stream I mentioned about the export from OpenToonz to After Effects and to the other program. So yeah, you can work with them together, but this does everything that I want in the way I want it to. And yes, I agree, Amar. Some people get caught up in the features too much compared to just drawing the animation. It depends what you want to do. I mean, personally, hand-drawn animation, a bit like I've done today with this little monster, even though I know I copied and pasted for his body, but we'll ignore that. But hand drawing the cycle, the walk cycle, and positioning by hand, so I've now got 16 separate drawings, to me is hand drawn animation. Doing that is much more fun and gives me a much nicer look than you get with 3D or you get with cutout animation or other feature rich techniques. I prefer this, but if you want to make cartoons and tell your stories, then you need to create shortcuts. Unless you want to make one story, 3-minute video once a year or whatever your time period is, especially for us hobbyists that haven't got a lot of free time, you can't do hand-drawn animation. So you need shortcuts. You need to lower the FPS, make your drawings on 2s or 3s or 4s. You need to do as they do in the anime world and have lots of static drawings with just the mouth moving. Now personally I find that a bit too much, and I find it uncomfortable to watch sometimes when you can see it's clearly single drawing and the mouth making the shapes for talking. But you might do cutouts. You can do shared assets, so pre-drawn assets you can reuse over and over. So there's lots of different ways of producing cartoons and telling your stories. It depends how much time you have compared to how much effort you put in. And you've got the option, I think, in OpenToonz. Do let us know, Full Chain, how Tahoma works out for you. I really like it. I really like it. I've done a few streams and a few videos using Tahoma to show off its features. And if I was drawing something with perspective, I would absolutely reach for the program and get Tahoma running. But for just basic drawing of a bit of a walk cycle, you could use either, to be honest. I don't see a difference in how well they perform, although I do hear that Tahoma performs better than OpenToonz. But in general, I don't notice the difference. It's the subtle extra features that I like. And we're talking about people prefer features over usability. Features do come in handy for speeding up your process and sometimes giving you a better look. So sometimes it's worthwhile. Yeah, no, you're right, absolutely right, Amar, to think about the new user and about their experience. It's just that we can't affect what we see with OpenToonz. It is what it is. Tahoma, now we have an effect on that. We can speak directly with Manong John, who has implemented some features I've asked for and other people, and not brand new shiny features that you don't necessarily want, but features to make the program work as you'd expect, exactly as you're talking about. Standard interface features, standard expectations for what you see. So yeah, Tahoma 2D perhaps is the place to make those changes. And I hope, guys, we're having a friendly chat out here. Hope there's nothing getting too excited about. I hope we're not arguing about things. It seems getting a bit strong out there. Let's keep it light. Oh, that's interesting. Editing world art. That Tahoma's working better for you than OpenToonz. Right, okay. Maybe Manong John's made the changes to make it work better that way. That's good. I just remembered something when I went on my break. I don't think I put on my my music, did I? I usually put on a bit of music when I'm out there. Let me... Is that too loud? Just a bit of background. I'll turn it down a bit. There we are. Okay, Anya-san, see you next week. We're doing some more walk cycles, so I hope you can join us for that. So we'll see you soon. Yeah, unfortunately, Matthias, the developers have got different priorities. And I say developers, as far as I know, there's only one developer, and he's hired by Studio Ghibli now. So he's really focused on what they need for their cartoons, which is why he works a lot on effects. I know he's changed quite a few recently. He's improved how they work, how the interface works for them, and that's probably why he's made the change for adding the effects nodes on the schematic, because again, that's what they need to use. They're not using the vector tools, so he's really unlikely to fix any problems with vector levels. Well, if you're still awake, Full Chain, try it now. Just search Tahoma 2D. Make sure you put the 2D on, otherwise you'll get all sorts of things. Start downloading now. You haven't got to use it tonight necessarily, or this morning. Yeah, just download it. It's a zip file. Unzip it. When you've unzipped it, move it to somewhere handy for yourself. A piece of advice, don't put it onto your desktop or into your program files folder. I think people had problems with permissions in those two places. But I've created a separate folder for these kinds of portable files. So I've got those all in one location away from the program files location. I see the chat's not updating on here, so I'll turn that off for now. Hello Fahad. So you're asking how to fix OpenToonz layer visible. Could you give me a bit more detail of what the problem is? So is the layer not visible, or it is visible and you don't want it to be? The invisible eye isn't working. Let me switch over to OpenToonz here. So do you mean the eye at the top right of the viewer? Up here? Up there? Or the one in the columns over there? Which one do you mean? Yeah, no problem, Casa Chap. If you answer Fahad when you get a second. Where do you find the files? Which files do you want to find? Is it the program files or your drawing project files? In the columns. Okay. When you say it's not working, it depends what your expectations are. Pressing the I button at the far left hides that column from the render. So it doesn't hide it from the view here. So you can see my monster is still visible. It's this table button that hides the monster while I'm editing. The left-hand button is to hide it from the render. And to see what will be in your render, let me just turn that off. To see what will be in your render, if you press the I button, the left-hand I button above the viewer, that's now what will appear in the render. And if I turn the I button off now on the column, now you'll see the character disappear because that's what will be in the render. Does that help? Animating with Leo. Hello, welcome to the stream. Good to have you here. We're towards the end of it today, but still hang around. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat and we'll see if we can help out. Callistus Animations is asking, is it good enough to animate 2 hours for posting a 5-minute video every month? Really, that's down to you, Callistus. The short answer is I'd say yes, it's as good as any other program for doing that, but you've still got to make the drawings yourself. So if you want to create a 5-minute video every month, then you'll need to take some shortcuts, as we were discussing a short while ago, you may have missed. So shortcuts as in, here I've got a 16-frame animation of my little monster walking, and I've got one drawing shown for every frame that's being played in front of us. But I'm playing at 12 frames a second. Ordinarily, you create an animation at 24 frames a second. So I'm creating half the number of drawings that I'd need to by changing the FPS down to 12. So that's one shortcut. Another shortcut would be using drawings you've made before, using the plastic tool or cutout style animation. So there are shortcuts you can make, and as I was saying before, it depends on the results you want to get. But this program, OpenToonz, is as capable as any other for getting those results. Editing World Art is asking, if I use a plastic tool in the arm and I'm trying to animate the arm, but the lower hand is not moving, only the arm mesh is moving. Yes, I think I know what you're saying. Let me start a new project. Start a pop-up. New project, call this tests. And I always start new projects I'm going to delete later with the word test, so as I know to come back and I can clear it out of my folder later. I'll come back to the next set of questions later. Let me quickly throw this together. So if you've got an arm, so you've got your character here. Look at that, beautiful. And then I'm going to create another one, another column here, and on this one I'm going to have his arm. Right, let's lock our workspace so we don't accidentally do that again. Change that. Okay, so this is going to be coloured like an orangey red colour. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to change the draw order to under all. In fact, I don't need that, I can use black at this end, can't I? And I'm going to fill this with red. So there's the arm. And another column, I'm going to have a hand. Let's name these columns. Just bear with me as we go through this, it won't take too long. So again, I'm going to draw a hand. Oh yeah, amazing. Let's hide the arm, make sure that's closed, which it is. Then on the hand level, I'm going to add a new colour, and I'm going to pick the RGB from the arm. In fact, it can be a totally different colour, can't it? It doesn't need to be the same. So there's the hand. Hit save. So on the arm, you use the plastic tool. We're going to create a mesh. That's fine. I'm going to extend all my drawings for a few frames. And on the mesh level, I'm going to build a skeleton, go from the shoulder to the elbow to the wrist. And then we're going to go to Animate. On the first frame, let's add a global rest key. Then after a few frames, arm lifts up and bends. And then it bends all the way down to the bottom. And then it goes back to the beginning. So if I play this, and I think I've got some interpolation. Yes, constant interpolation. Let's not worry too much. So we've got the arm moving, and you're saying you want the hand connected to the arm. So what you can do is the hook tool, as we talked about a little bit earlier. So if we go to the hand column, we'll place a hook tool. Where's the hook tool? There. On the hand. So if we look at the mesh column, and in the plastic tool, go to the skeleton, you can see there's a bone, for want of a better word, a joint at the end of the wrist there. And if I put a couple of lines on the ruler to mark where that is, I can then go to my hand column, add a hook at that point, there we go. On the hand column, I can now add a hook at that point there. You see a hook number 1 is added. So if you go to the schematic, I can now, on the stage schematic, connect the hand to that mesh, but it's not connected with a specific joint or number. So if you go down to the bottom and press this button here, where it's got a circle, which is how these are connected, press that, you've now got letters A and B, and you want the hand connected to a different thing to the arm, so connect that to the A, just so it's on a different one. And next to the hand, if you hover over the B, you get some arrows. Hopefully you can see that. And if I click on the arrows, I can drag that up and down until I get to number 1. So that's connecting hook number 1 to A. But what you need it to do is to connect to this point here, which is vertex _2, but point number 3. So if you hover over the A and click and drag till that says 3, now the hook point number 1 is connected to the plastic tool number 3. So if I go back to my drawing, as the arm moves, the hand will move with it. Ignore the lack of animation in those other frames, because the hook point on the static drawing is connected to the point here on the skeleton. So I hope that helps a little bit. Let me just scroll back. Okay, thank you, Amar. I'll check back on that. Okay, let's go back to the chat. It's been a lot of chat, obviously, since I was last here. So let's take a look at that. So I hope that makes some sense for you editing world art. I hope that helps a little bit. Yeah, he was asking Full Chain where your files are. I'm still not sure which files you're trying to find. You say you've got a dedicated folder for your anims and art. Oh no, Casa Chap, sorry. Right, yeah. Need to delete some, yeah. That's right, Amar, yes. Software development, been doing it for 20 odd years now. Yeah, this is why, and I'm sure you don't know, I don't mention it much, but I do a little bit now and again. I've created a couple of applications to help with OpenToonz that I sell for $1 each on Gumroad, just to help with a few tasks. So I've got one to keep a backup of my projects as I save them. So I've got a constantly running backup with each version versioned, so you can roll back to a previous version if you want to. That's one, for instance. Another one was for helping with lip syncing. Okay, Farhead, yeah. To create a career in animation, it's difficult. I mean, short term for smaller incomes, there's websites like Fiverr, where you can advertise your services. If you can demonstrate you can produce good animations, perhaps for people's intros for YouTube channels, that kind of thing. So 10 seconds or so of animation, you could perhaps sell your services to do some of that. A lot of software of animation houses are happy to take people from other countries and work totally remotely. So there's a small chance of doing that, but it's really difficult. It's going to be really difficult for you, I'd imagine. Yeah, independent could be the only way, but it isn't easy. It isn't easy. Bilal, hello. Good to have you with us. Well, you mentioned, Matthias, that lip syncing can take some time. It can. However, there are ways around that. I mentioned a second ago of some development work I did and some applications. One was to help with lip syncing, because there's a library called Rhubarb Lip Sync something. So I pulled that library into my own program that I built so that you can generate lip sync files without having to hand place every mouth movement. You just pump in your audio file and it'll create a data file you can load into OpenToonz that'll then control the mouth shapes to use. And if you think about a lot of animation, especially anime, it's dubbed for different countries, so the lip sync doesn't really need to be exactly in time with the mouth shapes. So as long as it's moving roughly where you've got sound talking, it could be fine to have some basic lip sync movement for your characters. So there are ways around it. Yeah, Papagayo is really good. That's what I've used before. And I've got a few videos on how to use that. Yes, it makes sense that you might have to log into GitHub first, Amar. I didn't think about that. Okay, thanks Animation Overload. Good to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us. See you next week, hopefully. But hopefully I'll see you soon. One of the problems with the animation tool, going back to where we were, is I believe my default interpolation may not have been set correctly. Yeah, here we go. So if you go to your preferences, before you start animating with the plastic tool and change the default interpolation, I always recommend speed in and speed out. So if I delete those keys I have here and then try again, go to the animate mode, global rest key, then I'll lift it up a little bit and then bring it down, bring it all the way down with a slight bend, and then back to the beginning by right clicking global rest key. We'll add that and let's see. Yeah, that's done it. So if I play that on a loop, slow it down a little bit. So yeah, the plastic tool's really easy to use. Again, once you've got over the basics of learning the basics, it's a bit of a learning curve, but it's pretty easy to use. And as I showed, adding a hook onto other columns, you can connect them to part of that plastic tool. And I've got a couple of videos on this, so if you check out the channel and search for either the word plastic tool or just have a browse through, you'll find them. I've got a couple of these in a playlist called Cutout Animation or something like that. So if you take a look in there, you find 10 or 11 videos, and a couple of them will be about using the plastic tool with cutout like this. So you might find those useful. I can't remember if Rhubarb takes MP3 or WAV or both. Soda Pop, I can't remember on that. Fahad's asking, should I choose computer science coding stuff I'm not interested, which has scope in your country? If it was down to me to give advice, and it isn't, so don't take this kind of advice from me, but if it was down to me talking to a friend, which I consider you all as friends of the channel and friends of mine, I don't think you should choose something that you're not interested in for career, to work with your career. Not really. You need to be interested in your job to do a good job. If you want to do so because it can earn the money you need, it can get you to somewhere you want to go, that could be your interest. That you know that you can earn a good bit of money, you could perhaps move to somewhere else or work in another area that you want to work in, that's great. But you need to have some interest. However, we've all got our own circumstances. There's family situations with parents or children or siblings you need to consider. So it's difficult for me to give advice on that. So I'd say you chat to people around you to see what to do, really. For auto lip syncing for more than 5 characters, you can either manually do them in Papagayo, and I know in that you can create a single project and create a set of mouth movements for different characters based on the same audio file. Ideally, you'd have a separate audio file for each character, but obviously if you're animating a pre-recording, you can't do that. So you could potentially create your own audio file by saying the words yourself at the same pacing. That's going to be tricky, but you could record your own audio file, then put it through Rhubarb. But I think you'd have to do it by hand, really. I think you'd have to do it by hand. Okay, Matthias, thanks for joining us today. I'll see you hopefully at the next stream. Fahad saying that you don't have to lip sync even with one character. As I say, I've got a lip sync playlist on the channel, so take a look at that and that can get you started in there. Yes, absolutely, Amar. That would be useful to add to the pinned information. You should comment on that. I'm likely to forget after the stream, so if you could, that'd be useful. Animating with Leo's going, so thanks for joining us again, Animating with Leo. Do come back again. We're doing some more walk cycles next week, so come and join us for that. And if you can, maybe join in and create your own cycle and share with us what you can do. So I'll see you later. Bye for now. Great question, Glenn, and thanks for joining us, by the way. When you try to use the plastic tool, it tells you can't since it's a level column. It depends. Ideally, I need to see what you're doing, or to see what the message precisely says. But to use the plastic tool, you start off on a level column, the drawing level. Choose the plastic tool, hit create mesh. I think you have to have the mesh, the drawing column visible. So maybe make sure that's visible to create the mesh and work with it. It tells you can't since it's a level column. I'm not sure what the problem would be. Make sure it's visible, make sure you've selected a level. It should be fine, and click the plastic tool. So if you've got any more details, we can certainly help with that. If you want to try again after the stream, and if you have a problem, share a screenshot on the Discord server. There's a link down below to that if you're not already a member, and then share a link to it. We can take a look and I can let you know exactly what the problem is. It fairly consistently works, so I don't think it's broken. I'm thinking there's some misunderstanding where you're clicking on something in the wrong order or in the wrong place. But if you share a screenshot, that would really help. When you say try to use the plastic tool, I wonder if you've already created a plastic tool column and you want to animate with it, you have to click into the plastic mesh column, which is this purple one. Select the plastic tool, and then from the drop down, choose build skeleton first to add your skeletal points, and then animate to then add the movement between here. So you have to be in the plastic mesh column to do that. So that could possibly be your problem. The thing is, Glenn, there's lots of things to do in the right order, and it's easy to do them in the wrong order. And I know that sometimes OpenToonz gets confused, and you can choose the mesh tool, the plastic tool, then choose the column, and sometimes it doesn't show the skeleton that you can click on to adjust it. So you just have to click away to another tool and then back to it. Say the hook tool, then back to it, and it'll appear. So it does play up sometimes, but if you're getting an error video, I'm guessing you're clicking the wrong thing. As I say, to animate, you have to be selected on the mesh column. So that's likely it. But as I say, we're over in the Discord server if you have problems later. Cass is asking, are you able to save mouth shapes in OpenToonz? Yes, you do every day. So every level on screen is saved as a file on disk. So here's the hand, for instance. If I create another Toonz raster level, and in there I draw a mouth shape. There we go. Amazing. So let's do in fact, in black. Let's do that, bring the smoothing down. And I'll add a bright red colour, fill in the tongue, and then we'll add a darker but not black colour and fill in the mouth. And then hit save. And that level is called D. I've not named it, it's just called D. And if you look on disk, it's a Toonz raster file which is saved as a let me just check the file type, go into tests where we are now, then this will be in drawings, D, TLV. So that stands for Toonz level, TLV file. So that is the drawing file saved on disk, with the TPL file being the Toonz palette file, which contains the colours. So if you go to your new project, you can then right click anywhere on the timeline. So if I insert a new column, I can then right click here and choose load level. You can then browse on disk to where that drawing is, find the Toonz level file, TLV, called D, hit load, and then it loads that mouth shape here, and you can use it on your new character. So I can rotate that round. So now I've got a mouth here, or if you prefer, we can put the mouth up here on the actual character there. And you can have your mouth shapes all stored within that one same file and reuse them again and again. So yeah, understanding about each drawing level being stored on disk and where it is really useful, because everything you create is stored as a separate file on disk. If you create a standard raster level, that's stored in the extras folder with each drawing in its own file. So if I create a raster level, and you can name them of course when you create them, so if I call this one circles and press OK, you can see I've got a circles file there with number 1, because it's drawing number 1 as a TIFF. And if I draw in that file, let's draw a circle, go to the next blank frame, draw another circle, that's saved as drawing number 2 when I hit save all. You'll see that appear on disk. So everything you draw is saved on disk. Raster files have a separate file for each drawing that you can edit in any other program, and vector or Toonz raster are stored in a single level file on disk. So it's really useful to understand where they all are. Callistus is asking, how do you extend the plastic mesh to different layers? There's two answers really to that. I'm just adjusting my screen for something in a second. How do you extend the plastic mesh to different layers? The first answer is you can't, because each mesh here is connected to one drawing level or one column. So that is connected to the arm mesh is connected to the arm column. And if you look at the schematic, you can see it's doing precisely that. So I can see the arm mesh is connected to the arm column. That's where I created it. I have connected the hand, but the mesh doesn't cover it. I added that separately. So one mesh to one column. So you can only connect it to one drawing level if you lay out your drawings in separate levels, as I've done here. However, if you use sub-X sheets, so if I highlight those 3 columns, I can right click and collapse all 3 drawing columns into one sub-X sheet, so they contain all 3 sets of drawings. So that's the hand, was it the circles? There we are. So the circles are in there as well, hand circles, and another column, I can't remember what it was, I thought it was the arm, the other column. So they're all inside one. Now that's in one column, I can apply a mesh to that one column, and it'll apply to any drawings that are shown in that column. So if you want to apply a plastic tool mesh to multiple drawing levels together, collapse them to a sub-X sheet, and then you can apply it to it. I haven't, Soda Pop, no. They haven't contacted me, and I've not considered contacting them yet. I'm wary of doing so, to be honest. I've heard interesting things about doing collaborations and promotions with tablet producers or other big companies where they sort of quite rightly expect you to say good things about them because they want to pay you some money in some way. And sometimes it's giving you a free tablet, sometimes it's financially giving you some money, and sometimes it seems it's a percentage potentially of increase in sales. So only if they sell extra tablets will you receive any money. But they seem quite restrictive on what you can put in your videos and what you need to say. Personally, I've got a Huion tablet, as I've mentioned on here before. I really like it. I'm a huge fan. The price compared to Wacom or Wacom is so much better. It's so much more accessible. Same for the XP Pen. I've heard great things about them. So I'm likely going to say good things anyway. But the potential restriction of knowing you must say good things could be tricky. And I don't want to be spending all my time reviewing tablets. However, getting a free tablet or receiving some money is a good thing. I could do with some money, we all could. So that would be quite nice. But I'm still quite a small channel, so I'm fairly sure I'm not on their radar yet. But if we get there, then I probably would accept it, unless the restrictions were too tight. If they contacted me and said, you cannot mention this particular feature that we know is broken or bad, I wouldn't do it. So if I do start doing any kind of product reviews or working with any other companies, then I will only do that if I can be honest with you. So if you see me doing that, you'll know that I'm being honest, and I will do 100%. So yeah, nothing so far, but I'll if something comes up, I'll let you know. I don't feel like I'm in a rush to contact them. If it happens, it happens, but I don't think I'm in a rush just yet. I'm quite happy where I am with what we're doing at the minute. Mikhail saying, should I send on Discord? What is it you want to send on Discord, Mikhail? What if I missed the early conversation? Just scrolling up now. Now I think I've missed that, or did you delete your messages? Well, I don't know if I want you to beat me, Kata, but I'm telling you that I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to do a review and say a tablet's good. If I've seen something that's bad or something I don't like, I will tell you. I guarantee that. I won't leave it out. And if they want me to leave it out, then our contract will be broken. I can't do it. I'm not going to do so. As I say, Huion, I really like. This I've only had the one tablet from them. This has been fantastic. I've had it for 3 years now. I've thought about buying a new one at some point because this is HD resolution, and I know they've released a 4K model. Might be quite interesting to work with. It would slow down these streams a lot because I've already tried plugging in a 4K monitor. It's going to take a lot more resources, so it could be a bit tricky for that. But a non-screen tablet maybe, I'd quite like to review. That'd be quite nice because people are saying, what can we use to get started? And I've seen a few of their tablets that have been reviewed. I've seen them on Amazon, and they're a very, very decent price. And I've used non-screen tablets plenty of times, so I'd quite like that more than a fancier screen tablet. But we'll see. Thank you, Casa. Yeah, please don't. I'm not really a fighter, so so please don't beat me up. But no, I wouldn't. I'd hate to do a review and just sell something to you that's not really good. So we'll see. Yeah, I have seen them. I think that's possibly the earlier days of Huion when they first came out. They approached quite a lot of art channels to do reviews. And let's say if it happens, it happens. It'd be quite good. It'd be quite cool to do. I'd have to figure out how to present it, what to offer you. I've seen some of videos from young Mr. His name's fallen out of my head. Noble Frugal, who's done a couple of tablet reviews, and he's always presented them really nicely. I love how he puts his videos together, and he always draws a nice image, often from his cartoon he's working on with the pigs, with Pie the Pig. So he does a great job of that. So it's kind of set the bar for me for what you need to do. So I'd need to to come up with something special, I think. But we'll see what happens with that when it comes. But yeah, if I do get offered by Huion in particular, judging by this tablet, I'm not likely to realistically give a bad review, because I do like this tablet. I love it. I think basic things like the stand is fantastic. It's got so many levels to adjust it. I'm not being sponsored today. It's got buttons down the sides of the tablet, 10 on each side. You can configure them. You can't configure them for different applications though, so there's your negative. I've got to have the same key mappings to the buttons whatever application, but you can easily go in and change them if you want to. And it works really well. If anything, the only thing to complain about would be the parallax, the offset from the pen perhaps, but it's not that big of a problem. I don't really notice it. Only if I'm focusing close, if I sit really close to the tablet and I'm really tightly drawing something or trying to fill in a small gap, you kind of notice it, but it doesn't get in the way. You never know, Soda Pop. You never know if I'll do that. We'll see. I don't plan to be making my own shows in the near future, but I'd really like to make some short animations, a few seconds long, on a semi-regular basis. I still need to get my head around how to do that. Let me give you an example of what I'm referring to. Oh, I've just noticed Rattus. How long ago was that? Oh, a few minutes ago. He shared an extreme walk cycle. Here we go. There's a walk cycle for you. Excellent job. Obviously, we all know Rattus is a great animator, so great job there. So let me just show you what I mean. If I go to did he share it on Twitter or YouTube? I'm thinking of Tony Gaddis shared a short animation with one of his monsters getting stuck in the rain. Have a quick look, see if I can find that for you. And you may have seen it or you may not yet, so let me find that. So it shouldn't be, there we go. Oh, that's a static image. He must have surely. No, it must be on just YouTube, so I can click that link. Let me get that loaded. No doubt going to play an advert first. No, there we go. So let me bring this down here. So I don't know if you've seen this or not. So if I click on play, I'm sure you won't mind me playing it here, but if you can, do nip to this channel, take a look and pop a comment on the video. I'm sure I'd love to see that. So it's a really simple short animation, but it's that kind of thing that I think you can really put together quite comfortably in like a couple of evenings' work. So I'd like to spend more time doing a couple of those animations just to get a feel for, again, timing and spacing, movement, using the program, start to build a few characters together, and just to put that in. So I kind of would like to have maybe a monthly short animation release or something. At the minute, I'm struggling to find time to keep up with my Friday videos as well as preparation for the streams on Sunday, so I might need to rearrange things in that area. I do enjoy doing both the two things, so I don't want to drop one of them. I like the Friday videos, really love these streams. Having a chat with you all about things, working on animations, it's great fun. So I'd like to work that in. So that's kind of my shorter term goal, to try and do some of that. So Yulichik's saying he has Cintiq 16, but doesn't have any buttons, so has to use the keyboard. For me, I end up using both. I've got just 10 buttons and a zoom bar on the side of my tablet, and I use both, but using the buttons for the common, often used features. So if I'm using a brush and I'm drawing something, I've got my hand always on the side of the tablet, and I can click undo, so I can draw something, undo, draw, undo, so quick. Or I've got the eraser next to it, so I've got brush, eraser and undo together, so I can switch to the eraser, erase a little bit, back to the brush, draw, eraser, rub it out, draw, undo, draw, undo, draw. It's really handy having it so close together, but then 10 buttons is not enough for the features you commonly use. But for simple things like undo, save, reset the rotation. So I've not been on here for a while, it's not on a level. So to rotate and then to reset it, so I can quickly get to a rotation, do some drawing, reset it. Some basic functions are really handy on the side, so I like having buttons. But I have the keyboard to my other side for everything else. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 2 or 3 episodes a year. Well, if you remember, if you was here, so to pop at the start of the year, I drew up a plan for myself. I've not seen that for a while. Let me open it up. I've got a shortcut in here. Let me find that first and I'll be right with you. Open to stream. Is it in here? No, it's in my projects. Let me try and find it. Can't be that far away. And I kept it handy. Kept it handy, but obviously not handy enough. Oh, I can't believe I put that. Never mind. But basically in there, I kind of had a thought at the start of the year of what I wanted to do for this year. Because the past couple of years I've done things on YouTube. I've learnt a lot of things myself about OpenToonz, animation, editing videos, getting them out to you, that kind of thing. And at the start of the year I planned what I wanted to learn and work on this year. And part of that included doing some kind of animations of things. So I want to do something so by the end of the year I can look back and say I've done all these things and it's been a productive year. I've progressed forward, I've learned, and that's kind of where I am at the minute. And the one thing I've not had time to do or made time to do is these kind of small animations. So yeah, that's definitely on the list of things to do. Yeah, Dong Chang, I've seen some of his stuff. Yeah, I've not looked at it for a long time. Yeah. Yes, all in OpenToonz. That's right. Yeah, I do want to do that, and I want to. Part of the reason of doing that is to work on my drawing skills. So even now, drawing this simple character, it's just quite messy. It's just basic shapes. As I often say, I draw like a 10-year-old at times when I'm not thinking about it, and I need to more often draw like an adult. Draw what's in my head, not drawing these symbols of shapes. And yeah, this is kind of what the animation's leading to. It's where we'll get to, and we will get there. I don't know if in the newer tablets you can do that. My tablet is 3 years old, and I checked the other day, and the latest driver was from, I think, Christmas last year. So they've not been updating those drivers as often, but they may be working on newer drivers for the newer tablets. So again, that could be perhaps not a great thing about Huion, depending on what the new tablets, how they work. So for instance, here's my tablet interface. So for the shortcut keys, I can change, and this is my tablet picture, the layout of it. I can change the 10 keys down the side here, 5 at the top, 5 at the bottom. So you can see the top one is for saving, that's for rotation, reset rotation, full screen, switching the screens, selection, control point editor, brush, eraser, undo. But that's for every application. There's no way you can change the application for that. And then the middle is a scroll bar, which I use, as you can see, the scroll wheel for zooming in and out in OpenToonz. Oh, here we go. Am I about to learn something? Yes? Oh, look at that! Rakesh, thank you. I've been wanting to do that for 3 years because I use Critter from time to time, and I want to change the shortcuts to work with more useful shortcuts in there. Brilliant. I'm sure I must have clicked that cog at some point. There we go. Right, I'll check that out and take a look. Thank you very much. I was thinking there must be a way to do it. I know on my old Wacom tablet driver you could change it. So thank you for sharing that. Hello Maria, you're back. Welcome back. Yeah, it's just something I want to work on, and I know you've been doing great stuff and sharing it on the channel of where you're drawing human characters doing different movements, different things. I've not been drawing people. I really need to get into drawing people and not quite learning anatomy, that sounds too in depth, but learning how to draw human characters. And so much so, I'm going to click on frame 20 and take that off the screen. He was just a quick scribble to demonstrate a small feature. I've not done any kind of collaborations for a while, Yulichek. Hosting a map, I don't know if people really would have time to join in. I know lots of people that hang out on the Discord and the other channels I hang around on and run are working on their own projects, so they don't necessarily have time to join in, but that would be really cool to do so. We've done a few collaborations in the past. They've been a lot of fun, so maybe we could do something. If you have any thoughts, drop them into the discussion on the Discord. We have got a collaboration channel on there for this kind of talk, so please do. I can't believe, Rakesh, I didn't notice that on the cog. I must have clicked it at some point. I do tend to click on options on programs. That's how I managed to learn OpenToonz, by trying things out, clicking on things, reading the manual where I was unsure, and starting to figure them out. So I'm surprised I didn't click on that. I may have done it a long time ago, but not for a while. So please, thank you. Speaking of collaborations, I will mention one thing now. I did a while back draw and animate on the streams my entry for a collaboration for a reanimator project to reanimate a Bugs Bunny cartoon, and that's kind of come to a bit of a stop because not enough people have applied to take up the parts to complete all the scenes. I really must share a link to that again over on my Discord, which I'll try and do this evening if I have time, because the more people can enter, the sooner we can get that cartoon finished. So I think I'd rather, if people have got some spare time to work on a map or a shared piece of work, I think I'd rather have you join that collaboration and complete a scene for that project. So I'll share details of that later. So if you've got a chance, take a look at a bit at the collaborations channel on the Discord, and maybe join in with that. So I'm going to call it a night. It's 10 to 8. I started today at 3 o'clock, so that's nearly 5 hours we've been streaming today. Maria, I know you've had a lot of encouragement and suggestions. Tom especially has been really helpful, I know, in the work you've been doing. But really, I keep saying it, but thank you for sharing it with us, to letting people get involved. So it's really great to see all your work on there. And I say to everybody else, if you're working on a project, however simple, however complex, do share it on the Discord. Let us see what you're up to. So I'm going to disappear. So thank you all for joining me today. And I'll keep an eye on the Discord this evening. I'll be on there chatting. So if you aren't doing any more walk cycles, do share your progress on there. I need to render out mine and share the full animation on there. I'll do that shortly after the stream. So thanks for joining me today. And I'll see you next Sunday. Hopefully next Sunday, possibly Saturday. Keep your eyes open for another stream. And if I'm on the right screen here, I'll be able to say thank you, goodbye, thanks for all your time today, thanks for the chat, it's been really good, and I'll see you next Sunday for another stream, and that's a Darren Tea. Have you always wanted to animate but didn't know how to start, and software seemed expensive and difficult to use? Well, with OpenToonz, it's free, powerful, and once you know how, it's easy to use. And it's my mission to get you animating with it today. Hi, my name's Darren, and I've been teaching OpenToonz for the past 3 years, showing thousands of students just like you how easy it is to animate with, and cutting through the jargon to show that anyone can animate with it. And by the end of the course, you'll be able to animate traditionally using OpenToonz. And the course is designed for students brand new to OpenToonz, as well as those new to animation. So take a look at the free lessons I've offered below, and then why not sign up and join me animating traditionally with OpenToonz.